Christian Miller.
It's time for the Miller's Edge with four-time SEC champion and two-time national champion Christian Miller.
Once again with Christian Miller taking him down.
Here's college football playoff national champion Christian Miller on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC.
And welcome into this Talking Tuesday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 12:30 WTBC. Hope you guys are doing well. I know it's definitely cold outside. I just was talking with Chase and Reed, had some battery issues. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm back in high school. You know, one of my cars back in the day would have had something like that. But, you know, it is what it is. You got to roll with it. It's, you know, I got a Tesla. So, unfortunately, there's a lot of, dependency on the electrical system. And, weather's not great for that right now. But anyway, hope you guys are doing great. Hope you guys enjoyed that game last night. Just was chopping it up with Reed and Chase about that. And, man, quite the game we had. For a national championship game, I thought it was really good. I thought it, consisted of a little bit of everything you would expect out of a good national championship game, right? Some back and forth, big-time special teams play that ends up making a big difference, a gutsy call, fourth down call by Signetti, going for it. Man, that was impressive. But overall, really good football game. Two really physical teams going back and forth. I enjoyed it. And I'll be honest, we didn't even dive into the conversation yesterday, but I think it went about how I kind of envisioned. I thought it would be a close game. I had Indiana winning the game by a close margin, so I guess I was pretty, on target with that. But Chase, Reed, let me ask you this. Coach Saban, and I think everybody on the panel, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember who the last person picked, but I know at least the first three were all Miami. A lot of people actually had confidence in Miami in this football game, playing in their backyard, in their home stadium, all that good stuff, but also just knowing really physical offensive line, their ability to run the football, especially as of late, had been really important for them. Carson Beck, early on in the season, he definitely had some inconsistencies, some struggles, but it looked a lot better over the second half of the season. In the postseason, he'd been playing some really good football. Definitely, they had some mistakes in that Ole Miss game that let them kind of linger in that one. But I don't know. I could have seen Miami definitely pulling it off. But, man, that Indiana team, it just felt like if you were going to beat them, which, again, nobody did, they went undefeated, 16-0. Some people comparing them back to a 2019 LSU team. We can talk a little bit about that maybe later. But I just felt any team that wanted to have a chance at beating that Indiana football team, you had to almost be near perfect, just the way they execute, right? They don't make many mistakes. They have a great scheme. They attack you in a number of ways. And listen, it's just so impressive how they play. I was, watching it, and it's funny. It always seems like I'm just like hyping everything that they do, but I promise it's not that. I was telling my brother, I just enjoy good football, right? I mean, good scheme, good execution. I mean, great tackling. I mean, these guys, they just do pretty much every little detail the right way. So big shout out to Indiana. I mean, listen, I wasn't really rooting for anybody necessarily. I mean, I had my high school teammate and one of my good friends, John Miller, who's their running backs coach. So, I mean, I was, hoping he would hopefully get that opportunity to win. But also you had Miami with head coach Mario Cristobal, who I have a relationship with his time here in Tuscaloosa. So I was good either way, but I'm just glad it ended up being a really good football game. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But that also means now that that's done, it's a whole new year. It's officially the end of that season, the 2025/2026 college football season. And now we are officially in the next year, which means we got all these way too early top 25s coming out. A lot of people seeing Alabama and where they're falling right now, not too happy. We'll talk about why that might be. And we'll pull up a couple of them because there's like a bunch of different ones. So we'll try to find on average where Alabama's falling. But so far from what I've seen, probably not ideal for what fans might expect. But if I'm being completely honest with you, I think it's probably about what I would have expected, given, how we're looking right now going into this new season and all that good stuff in terms of losses, some of the additions, all that good stuff. We'll dive into all that. We got plenty of time. But first, we got to hit this timeout when we come back. We won't be doing it alone. We'll be joined by Slim Slady, Slade Bolden. He's jumping on the stream. We'll talk with him, get his thoughts on that national championship game last night, his thoughts on where Alabama is currently projected in these way, way, way too early top 25 lists and more. All that coming up right here on the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Quick timeout. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The Tuscaloosa Thread News Update is
All
brought
right,
to you
let's
by
see if we can pull this off the right way. Let me drop that. Let me add Slade. Let me hit that. Yes, sir. Can you hear me, Slade?
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Can't hear you, but good morning.
God, it always does this. Hold on. We got to figure this out. Hold on. Let me see. Better? No?
Mm-mm.
Better?
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay, so maybe the trick is I have to take myself down and then put myself back up. Because this happens with my dad when he joins. When I put him on the stage, he can't hear me. So I've been telling him, I'm like, you got to leave, but then I'll put you back on here. But maybe I need to just kick myself out.
Hey, maybe so. Maybe
Yeah.
it's 2026. See, man, we gotta get this,
bro. You know what's crazy? 2025, we didn't have these issues. That's what's crazy. Wait, I like that cup. Let me see that.
It's the only thing you get when you buy a
Mercedes. Mercedes-Benz. Okay.
They're like, hey,
okay.
pay us all this money up front and monthly, and we'll give you a coffee mug. And I'm like,
listen, that's not a bad little addition, though. I mean, that might entice me. Probably not. I'm pretty cheap, but no, I'm whipping a little Tesla right now. I was just talking about my battery, man. Listen, no one probably would have ever envisioned me driving a Tesla because I've always been a big truck guy. Hell, even a Challenger, all that good stuff. But I love it though until you get cold weather, and like I think the battery, obviously batteries have a hard time when it's really cold. I think it's taking its toll. So now I'm kind of like, might not be great. But
well, I mean, would it just take time to get going, or is it dying on you quickly, or?
Well, it definitely dies quicker when it's cold. But no, this time around, it wouldn't like, I say start, but it's not like it's like starting up, but it wouldn't start. So I was like, yeah, it's a problem. So I had to schedule an appointment. It's weird, man. You got to schedule appointments. It's so technologically advanced. It's not like you just go, all right, let me call my buddy that works at, the tire shop or whatever. You got to schedule an appointment. So I'm very, very bougie in that aspect.
Same. Hey, you got to schedule an appointment too, but I like it. You could drop it off, but to schedule, it means they give you a loaner. And it's normally like a newer, better version than what my car is.
Trying to get you to upgrade.
I don't mind it. Yeah.
No, that's true. Did you watch that championship game last night?
Oh yeah, lost some money too.
Really? You went?
I mean, like $50.
Did you go Miami or did you win like points?
So I did Miami. I ended up having to change it to Miami plus 12.5, and that hit. And I had the over 34.5 that hit, but I prop betted Mendoza. Killed me. I was plus 1.5 touchdowns. When I prop bet, I'm never going touchdowns anymore. I'm just sticking to yards but I had him rushing 15 yards because I remember because this is what I was.
So you had him at least rushing for 15.
Yeah, he had -8 because of sacks.
The sacks, yeah. I was about to say. Now I'm with you. Taking him for 15 yards on the ground. I mean, I'm with you all the way because he's sneaky, athletic, and he knows when to tuck it and run. But the sacks, I wouldn't have seen it, and that's why I don't bet because I'm terrible. Oh wait, hold on.
Yeah, you normally don't either. But
I'm tripping. Here we go. And welcome back into this Talking Tuesday edition of the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. I literally had to check the day real quick because Slade, we're joined by Slim Slady, by the way. Slade Bolden, you guys already know. You know the drill. Slade, I'm still trying, like, the holidays to, like, playoffs, and then with this whole transfer portal thing, man. Like, first of all, I've always kind of just, like, I never cover recruiting. But this transfer portal thing, like, I don't remember it being like this last year. At least, I don't know. Maybe it was, but I didn't cover it this extensively. This year, Slade, when I tell you I've been, like, watching game tape like I'm like an NFL scout. I mean, I'm like sitting here at my station.
You should be getting paid to do it.
Oh, yeah, you're damn right. I should be getting paid a whole lot more to be doing all that. So I'm like, man, I'm doing all these breakdowns. I need to work in the front office. But, man, I'm still kind of just in go mode. I'm like, I need to just chill. So luckily, the national championship game was last night. So finally, it's a new season. Maybe we can kind of relax a little bit, at least me, and hopefully the transfer portal is done. We're going to get into all that real quick. I know you're a little bit shorter on time, but We'll start with the championship game. Me and you were just talking about that. What are your thoughts on? I know it didn't go great in terms of some of your plays, but wait. So you said the prop. Wait, hold on. So explain to me how that works. So you said the other two hit. Does that mean did you get anything from that, or did?
So
I'm
I
bad when it comes to
did.
this stuff.
So I did like a two. Had two parlays. I had a parlay with the over and Miami plus 20, plus 12 and a half.
Mhm.
And basically that means, okay, they can't lose by more than, or they can't lose by more than 12 and a half. I'm pretty sure. I'm not good at it either,
Yeah, I'm
but I
bad,
was
dude.
hoping
I'm bad.
as long as Miami kept it close, we were good. And then they hit the over, which was 34 and a half, which I ended up betting in the first quarter because I just couldn't get it in time. But my props with the parlay, I had um, the running back, Black, number
Mhm.
8, had him for over 60. That hit. I had Malachi Tony for over 60 and a half yards receiving. That hit. And I
Mhm.
was hoping for Mendoza to at least throw 2 passing touchdowns and rush over 15 yards.
Mhm.
Because I was like, this is my thinking. I was okay. I know he ran all over us,
Yeah.
escaping the pocket. I was like, with Miami's defensive line getting pressure, hey, he's probably going to have to use his legs a lot more. So I'm like, okay, that's easy. He's definitely going to have to get 15 and a half.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting -8, even though he had 12-yard rushing touchdown
Yeah, I was about to say the
and no
touchdown. I feel
passing
like about did.
touchdowns.
Well, I was going to say I feel like the touchdown probably would have done it for you, but you're right. See, and that's why I don't. Well, number one, you can't do it here, and I don't really know how to even do it anyway. But
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, I wouldn't have. I would have been the person that wouldn't have considered net in terms of the sacks and stuff. I would have seen that initially and said, oh, he's going to rush for 12, and I would have just took it and not really taken that into consideration. But I guess
Yeah.
I will. You know what they say, always learn from others' mistakes. I'm gonna use.
Please. Well, I don't bet at all either. Like I don't mind going to the casino, playing a little poker, blackjack. I've gotten hot doing that
Mm,
a few times out of many times. I've lost more money probably than I've won, but definitely not probably. But when it comes to like betting on games, I never did it because for so long we couldn't and we weren't allowed and it was illegal.
right.
So I just like never did, but it is kind of fun sometimes. I mean, it's not like I'm throwing big money, but I'm gonna try to scheme up something for this NFL
Oh Lord.
championship games this weekend. But I am sticking to yards. I am not or I don't know what else you could do, receptions, but I'm not betting on touchdowns anymore because I had
What
Puka Nakua last weekend to score anytime touchdown, and that didn't happen.
real quick before we jump into the championship game, we had a deal last season with a like one of those services, but it actually was legal to do here in Alabama, and it was all about what is it called? Like not maybe props, but you had to pick like 3 or like 5 different parlays, or I can't remember what the
Parlays,
name.
yeah.
Yeah, so you had to pick a number of those things. And I used to think I was like, oh, this is easy. Josh Jacobs, any touchdown. Pat Mahomes, two passing touchdowns. I'm like, oh, easy. All right, those are
Yeah.
3 easy ones. When I tell you, I would always get 2, and the third one wouldn't go. And I'm like, bro, at some point, this is. I don't want to say it's rigged, but something's all. I'm like, come on, these are like almost guarantees. So yeah, it's not easy, and I learned my lesson. But to be
Yeah.
fair, they gave us some spending money, but other people I
Of
think
course,
had a
the
lot
house
more
always
success than I did.
wins.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. And I'm not going to say any names, but you talked about blackjack. We had some dudes that I played with that were some damn good blackjack players, and they may or may not have won themselves some nice spending money during some games. But we're not going to talk about
Mhm.
that right now. We'll do that another time. In terms of the game, Slade, how did it go in your opinion? Did it play out how you thought in terms of like what happened on the field? I mean, Indiana, we knew how fundamentally sound in terms of execution. I mean, they're elite, also physical on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Great scheme on both sides. I mean, they really do about everything well. Miami, I thought Miami was going to give themselves a chance. Hell, a lot of people were
Yeah.
picking Miami. I thought the spread was probably a little bit too high. It probably went about how I thought. I mean, 2 physical teams, I thought battling out. The line of scrimmage was going to be the determining factor, which it pretty much was outside of special teams play. Gutsy call, those are big. But what'd you think of it? Mendoza, he's a tough guy.
Yeah, I mean, exactly the way you put it. I had Indiana winning.
Mhm.
I was gonna bet originally Indiana -7, -6.5, basically meaning they couldn't lose by more than a touchdown.
Mhm.
But I was like, okay, this is probably going to be a back and forth, a defensive type of ball game. I had a feeling that Indiana would struggle against Miami's D line, which they did. But when you play such an efficient team that's just very well oiled, not very flashy, even though my fellow white out made some big plays, number 80. So that was really the only there was a
White
couple
out?
explosive white
It
out, yes.
that
So,
that's so white
it's kind of
out,
white
that
out.
that's new. Listen, let me preface by saying this again. I am biracial. Hey, I'm actually 54% Caucasian. So before I say this, but they used to call, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
they used the term that the white linebackers called themselves when they were here. Were you familiar with that?
Oh yeah, crackerbacker.
Okay, you say it. Okay, all right. So I love it. I haven't heard white out. That's a good one. Crackerbacker was, again, they called themselves that. That was their nickname. That was their platoon. Keith Holcomb.
Mm-hmm.
Was there another one? I know we had Walker Jones.
Keaton maybe. Keaton Anderson.
Keaton and Keith
he was
Holcomb.
there
I
at one
remember
point.
those two. I feel like there was maybe one more guy. I know Gussie Bush was here. I'm trying to think of so anyway, but that's
Dylan
good.
Lee, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, we've had some good ones, man. Anyway, sorry. So your fellow whiteout, great.
Yeah. Well, he made some big time catches, but there were some other explosive plays, and I just figured because I knew Indiana's defense was gonna, from a schematic standpoint, and that's what they do so well. But I really didn't think Indiana was as efficient as they have been in the past. But I mean, they're playing an unbelievable defense, especially up front. But I had a feeling that eventually Indiana's efficient play and the style of play would tire out Miami's defense, and they would eventually kind of take over the game towards the end. Now, it became a little closer. Miami had an opportunity to score and to win the game, obviously with the pick to end it, which it is what it is. There's all these. There's so many things that happened to Carson Beck, before the season with social media, some relationship deal with the Cavender twin. Yeah, we got robbed too. I mean,
took both of his cars. It's crazy. They just went to his house, took his cars, man.
Jeez, I didn't even know that. Or maybe, I remember that now. But and then obviously transferring and not, probably in the best view of, the Georgia fans. But what we talked about, it's, as a quarterback, is probably the hardest thing to do, making that decision to transfer, especially if you've had success somewhere and you've built a somewhat of a legacy, and you built your name at a school that, further down the road, having that type of legacy could probably benefit you from just a career and life standpoint. But
sure.
So I don't know him. I'm not saying he's a good or bad guy, but I love a guy that will essentially stand on business and be like, hey, I'm gonna go with my gut. I'm gonna prove myself right, and I'm going to go to a different school and show that I deserve to be one of the top quarterbacks in college football. Not that he was a Heisman candidate or anything like that, but there's so many more tangibles being a quarterback than just touchdowns and passing yards. It's how you lead a team. It's how you deal with adversity, how you stay calm and collected under pressure. So I was kind of not really rooting for it. I didn't really care. I mean, it made Bama look better with Indiana winning, essentially, even though they just dog stomped us. But I kind of felt for the guy just because he got his team down there. He made some very clutch plays in the playoffs
and to
get him to that point. Yeah, and then you throw a pick right there at the end. But I don't think that's going to really affect him. I mean, that was a hell of a play call and scheme by the defense. I mean, they made it like cover one off man and then rolled to
went to two. Yeah, they played. Yeah, they had that single high disguise, single high shell, more or less. They played two, at least at the bottom. Nowadays, there's so much, so many addendums. I mean, it could have been an invert two up top. It could have been more of a cover six. Regardless, they're playing two on that side of the field, and looked like he was trying to recreate 2nd and 26, right? Because remember, that was cover two that we hit Georgia. We hit the cover two hole shot, and found Smitty right in between that window. But again, the safety for Georgia in that situation was a lot more, he's a little bit more in the middle of the field. In this deal, they had no underneath route.
No.
And we all know if that corner played it extremely well and exactly how you're supposed to, right? You're supposed to kind of keep getting depth until you have work. There was no work underneath, so he could literally just trail underneath that the whole time. The safety was over the top. It's a tough thing, but it's part of it. It happens. I'm with you. I feel for him because that as a quarterback, I mean, he's going to put that all on him. Like, oh, they had a chance, but realistically, they probably shouldn't even have got the football because the Indiana had a very uncharacteristic penalty out of their left tackle, who was probably their best lineman, had the false start when it was like 2nd and 1. Not saying that they would have been guaranteed the first down, but if they got the first down, which I would have bet on 2nd and 1, they probably would have got it. That would have been ball game. Miami would have been out of timeouts and would have been a done deal. So, listen, I just thought it was a great game. I kind of was hoping maybe Miami would pull it off because Cristobal, he was gone by the time you got here, but a great coach, man. You're talking about like a dude that's passionate about football, very tough-nosed coach. I mean, you see it. My dad always talks about taking on the persona of the coach. I mean, his team plays with that. I mean, the way they were beating up on Mendoza probably should have been called some late hit or, roughing the
pass. They let him play, though.
Listen, I'm not mad at that,
too. There were some physical.
There was.
Yeah.
The corners were definitely physical, but I actually kind of like when the refs let guys play. I mean, you play receiver, you tell me. Well, actually, I guess you're probably going to want them to call more. But like,
I would like one, but
but I'm saying, did you kind of like it, like the competitiveness of like sometimes it's a little bit more of a chippy game, or I guess that's probably stupid because you probably would want as many flags as you can get. But I just feel like sometimes you guys want to battle it out too, some hand combat when you're in those situations, or no?
I'll tell you this: if I caught the ball, I didn't care. But if I didn't, I wanted that flag. But I was so used to. Because like we never put on, our DBs never put like the little, basically like the mitts or whatever. Like I'll be honest, our DBs a lot of times they're always very physical, but they held. And I would tell, I don't know who I would tell. Me and Jalen, like I'd go, like even if I was outside, I work with Jalen Armour Davis a lot, and he was very, very savvy and like have his hand or arm somewhere where I like couldn't knock it off, and I'm like, he would hesitate to tell me, but I'm like, dude, I need to know this so that way if someone else tries this.
He was gatekeeping in practice. What the world?
He would joke with me, but he'd tell me like he'd get right under like my back plate, and it was very savvy. But I always encourage guys like, hey man, like I appreciate the physicality, like because you're gonna get that in the game regardless if they call it or not. Just like when we shove and we use our little techniques to, get guys off of us, and I think it's still a physical game, and I always invited the physicality. Not to say that I want them all the time, but it's football. I mean, at the end of the day, it's football. So I did like the physicality for sure.
Yeah, I just like sometimes when it's flags galore, I'm like, man, let dudes play. Sometimes just got to get back to playing some football, which I thought there was some damn good football being played last night. All right, we got to hit a quick timeout. We come back, we keep on talking. I'm going to ask Slade his thoughts on. We'll segue now into a little bit of this conversation about the way too early conversation. A lot of Bama fans not too happy. Slade, I'll pull up some of these rankings when we come back. We'll discuss it right here on the Miller's Edge, top 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Let's see what the chat's talking about. I didn't even get a chance to look at the chat, man. Let me scroll all the way back up. We got everybody in. We got Jake, we got Kenji, we got Phil. Gump, what's up? Mike, what's going on, man? Has there been any movement since the weekend? You're talking about the portal? Not that I'm aware of, other than that high school receiver that we signed. I don't think there's been much. Slade, you've missed quite the talk with this whole portal season, man. I mean, it's been, when I tell you it's been all over the place. I don't know if you've had a chance to really pay attention to every addition that we've added, but I would ask your thoughts on that. But if you haven't seen all the guys, I'm not even.
Well,
I wouldn't waste your time.
A left tackle from Texas, right?
So he played left guard. He was recruited as a tackle, but he's a guard. And I'll say this. So I watched about 4 of his games. When he played Oklahoma, that was a really good defensive line, by the way. He actually, is impressive. Again, he's a true freshman last year, and he started about 4 games. Definitely very raw. To me, I think he's still a developmental piece. I mean, I know he's got starting experience, but outside of that Oklahoma game, you saw the flashes of the raw, the rawness, the youth, and being, young. Still need to, correct some things from a developmental standpoint. But I do like the addition for sure. I don't think it lines up with what they've said about maybe like changing the profile of the offensive line to fit what we're doing. Because I mean, this guy's like 6'7", 350 pounds.
Yeah.
He kind of fits like the old offensive line that everybody was saying we were getting rid of. But he looks physical in the run game. Just has to do it a little bit more consistently and play with better technique. And pass pro, he's got to get better moving his feet. His change of direction he struggles with. But
Yeah. I mean,
he's a good one.
If you're that big, but you're not Evan Neal, then
and I will say for his size, he moves well. But
yeah.
Again, I mean, do you want move well for your size, or do you want move well overall because we want guys that can, feel more comfortable playing in space and
I
improve our
want
pass pro?
nasty, explosive,
Yeah,
just
man.
mean mother effort.
Yeah. and listen, I'm glad you said it like that, because when I break down some of these guys, and again, it wasn't many, but it's like sometimes people hear it, and I don't think they're used to like how coaches talk or scouts talk. Like if you're really just breaking down a guy's tape, sometimes they think when you're just saying, oh, well, he lacks explosivity, or he has, his change of direction is bad. They think you're saying they're a bad player, and you're just like, no, like everybody's got strengths and weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
But so like what you're saying is that's what I was hoping we would bring in, like at least a couple of those guys. I saw a little bit of a mean streak in the center we brought in. This guy that we just talked about, he probably can play with a little bit of a mean streak as well. But you're right, though. I at the end of the day, that's what I want. I want to see our offensive line. You watch the lines for both those teams last night and the physicality that they play with. I mean, it was a war. Trenches was going up yesterday.
Yeah, and just think where that center came from.
He came from here. Matter of fact, he was backing up Brailsford before he transferred, and he ain't the biggest, but he's scrappy though. He's probably the smallest one on that line.
Well, he's got that mentality.
Yeah, he's a good player. And welcome back into this Talking Tuesday edition of the Miller's Edge, Top 100.9, 1230 WTBC. We're talking. We just got done talking a little bit about that national championship game last night. Indiana crowned national champions, 27-21 victory over Miami. And, man, really good game. Kind of feel bad for Miami, Cristobal. And they just knowing you're from that area, you get to have a national championship there. I mean, and bring back the U and just falling short, man. I hate it for those guys, but who knows? Maybe they'll find themselves back there. But Slade, we know, number one, it's hard as hell to get there, let alone win it. And two, now with all the extra games you got to play, hell, they should not hang their heads low. And the reason I say is there's a lot of people saying, well, they probably shouldn't deserve to be in there based off their record. If you watched them with the eye test, you knew that they deserved to be in the college football playoff, but they almost damn near didn't even get in based off of their record. Some of those losses that they had during the regular season, but really good football team, really good game. All right, Slade, I want to ask you your thoughts on some of these way, way, way too early top 25 lists. And I'm going to put this on the screen real quick so both of us can see it. Now, this is the actual AP poll. This is how everything finished up, right? So you had Indiana 1, Miami 2, Ole Miss 3, Oregon 4, Ohio State 5, Georgia 6, Texas Tech 7, A&M 8, Alabama at 9, Notre Dame 10, and then we'll do the top 10 there. Oklahoma, I'll throw that in there since we played them twice. They ended up at number 13. Actually, let me name the schools we did play. So we ended up beating, we beat number 6, Georgia. That was a great win. Beat them on the road. They got their get back, but we did beat them in Athens. We beat number 13, Oklahoma, on the road. Good win, playoff win. Beat number 15, Vanderbilt at home. And it looks like everybody else fell out that was in there when we played. So we ended the season, what was it, 11-4, 3 top 25 wins when it was all said and done. So definitely some progress, but we still got to keep making some more. But now, let me pull something else up. So now we got these way too early. This one's from CBS Sports, and it's got Alabama coming in at number 15, Slade. I think there's another one for ESPN. I'll try to find that. And a lot of people are saying, and I think Chase, our producer, even told us that they had Alabama at like 21. But I think on average, you're seeing like the mid-teens. I think as high as maybe 8 or 9 on one of them. I can't remember what service it was. But let me just ask you this, not Chase. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of our producer, Slade. What do you think about Alabama, whether it's based off of this number 15 on this list, or looks like ESPN? I'm scrolling down. I want to make sure I have it right before I throw this at you. And yeah, it is. This is ESPN's. They have Alabama at number 21 in this way, way, way too early top 25. Any thoughts on that? I mean, I can read you this I guess preview for what I'll read this so you have some context. It says, for the 2026 outlook, with the way the 25 season ended, the Tide fell to Georgia 28-7 in the SEC championship game, beat Oklahoma in the CFP first round, and were pummeled 38-3 by Indiana. They definitely used that word there. By Indiana in a quarterfinal at the Rose Bowl. Coach Kalen DeBoer is undoubtedly on the hot seat entering his third season. Again, this is ESPN. I'm not saying this. I'm reading right now, folks, so don't swerve off the road thinking it's me. His teams went 20-8 in his first 2 seasons, which isn't good enough at Alabama. The Crimson Tide ranked 125th in rushing and must figure out a way to run the football. That starts up front, where Alabama has had mediocre play on the offensive line. Keelan Russell and Austin Mack will battle for the quarterback job, with Simpson leaving for the NFL draft. There were heavy losses in the front 7 on defense after Lawson, Jefferson, Keenan, and Overton turned pro. And then it lists, the key starters that left, and then some of the key additions so far in the offseason. That said, Slade, what are your thoughts on the way too early look on Alabama going into the 2026 season? You think it's a little disrespectful? Do you think it's about par for the course? What do you think?
I'll answer this, and I apologize. I gotta run, but
yeah.
I'll be quick. I've always loved when people doubted us as a team, as an individual. So I love the fact that we're coming in, I guess ranked low or whatever the case, that whether it's 15 or 20, to me, it don't matter. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And obviously it is really early, but I think being around 15 or 12 makes sense just based off what we've lost, how we played this year. And to me, I do think the one thing that we have an advantage of compared to some other teams that are ahead of us, like Miami, like Indiana, maybe there's some other ones that I'm missing. We at least have guys that have at quarterback, which is very important to have a strong leader and quality quarterback. We at least have guys that have shown what they're capable of. So I think that at least gives us maybe an extra boost to be ranked a little higher. But then again, just like when you're rebuilding in the offseason as an NFL team, that's what we have to do. And that's just the name of the game now. But I don't mind being ranked that low from a mindset to, fuel to the fire. But I think it is pretty close, anywhere between 10 to 15, I think, based on how we played and how we lost and how we won. I think that shows about right.
No, that's definitely fair. Slade, I appreciate you hanging out with us. I know you're a little short on time, so thank you so much for giving us that time that you had. And we'll make sure we get you back on here. And when we come back, I'm going to go to the fans and get their thoughts on this ranking, because I know they've got plenty of them. Slade, you be easy, brother. Let's go. And
you too, bro.
Hey, if you buy another Mercedes, you get another nice cup like that. You always
buying a Mercedes first. I might be able to get one of the cups with the Mercedes. That's going to take a little longer.
Slade, I appreciate you, bro.
I appreciate you too. All right, yes, God bless. Be easy.
Yes,
Roll
sir.
Tide.
We'll see you. Roll Tide. All right, we got to hit a timeout. That was Slim Slade joining us when we come back. I want to go to you guys. What are your thoughts? Again, ESPN's way, way, way too early. Top 25 has Alabama at 21. One of the CBS ones I saw has us at 15. I think I saw another one. It was like a betting site maybe that had us around like 8 or 9. So it's all over the place. But, if you put it on average, it's probably like the mid-teens, I would say, for Alabama. Do you guys think it's fair? Do you think it's just? Do you think it's a little bit of disrespect? I want to get y'all's thoughts. 205-342-9904. Phone lines are open the rest of the way on this Talking Tuesday edition of the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC.
With Taco Casa.
I'm surprised they still got that going, man. And what I'm just playing. Let me stop. What's his name? Going to A&M, but it was a joke. All right, let me catch back up on some of the chat messages that we have. And by the way, we got a good app message, I think, from Tia yesterday that I missed. Tia, I apologize if you're listening. I missed it, but Miami DB24 was getting roasted. Who was the young guy that was filling in? He had some good reps. It might not have been 24. It might have been another one. But sorry, I'm just catching up on some of these chats. Miami adjusted in the second half, probably helped getting the DB back. Yeah, listen, Miami, I mean, we all knew up front, I mean, their defensive line was going to have to do their thing. And they definitely did that. You know, I don't know what the numbers were, but in terms of stopping the run, I mean, the first half, they actually held up pretty solid against the run. I mean, I know Indiana definitely broke some off, especially in the second half. They did, but you know, they were doing a good job, and they needed to do that. Indiana, man, they run the football well, and that helps set everything else. But the thing about them, man, with Mendoza, like those back shoulder throws, you know, he wasn't as accurate or consistent in this game. And listen, I mean, he's playing against a really good Miami defense. But when it mattered most, man, I mean, that back shoulder throw, man, he's always so on time. He puts it in the perfect spot, only the place a receiver can catch it. And shout out to his receivers, too, for coming up and making some big plays. I mean, they play like a championship caliber football team without a doubt. I mean, there's a reason they went undefeated. I know everybody's going to point to age, and I'm not saying that doesn't help them out. I mean, yes, having older guys, more experienced guys definitely helps when it comes to guys knowing what to do, what's expected, just having those reps, which that's part of the reason, like when I talk about Alabama right now, some of those concerns with us being so young, you know, I just imagine what a very young Alabama team like we have right now would look like maybe playing against an Indiana team like that, you know, like we did this past season. You know, a Miami team that's built like that. Because there's going to be more of those teams now. I mean, especially with the transfer portal. I mean, even Indiana's reloading, guys. I mean, they've been very active in the transfer portal. So, you know, just that youth for us, I mean, in terms of kind of how I see us right now, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I think kind of that mid-teens area, I don't think it's necessarily probably far off from what you can expect, just given that, you know, we did have a lot of key losses and we're a very young team, you know. Now, whoever wrote this article, they're kind of going in on us. I ain't gonna lie. They kind of went a little too hard for my liking. I was like, hold on, damn. You kind of let us have it. Real quick, I got to remind you what I'm thinking about. If you guys haven't, man, hit that like button. It takes 2 seconds. That always helps us out, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, whoever wrote the article, man. I don't know. It might say it at the bottom. Let's see who wrote it. Does it say? Not that it matters, but I will say, I mean, for their reasoning for 21, I mean, they talked about the 2 losses towards the end of the year. They talked about some of those key, you know, losses that I should say departures. So I think 21 might be a little too low in my opinion, but like 15, I'm not necessarily mad at. But we'll talk about that here in a second. And welcome back into this Talking Tuesday edition of Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Big thanks to Slim Slady, former Alabama wide receiver Slade Bolden, joining us here in the first hour while he had some time. Mike Johnson, so who's supposed to join us at the top of the hour, they have a big press conference in terms of, you know, the Atlanta Falcons, who he covers. You know, he does a great job covering them and has his radio show there. So we're going to bump him to Thursday, and we're going to talk all about offensive line this past season. Hopefully he's had a chance to look at some of these guys that we brought in or have some thoughts on that. So we'll do that Thursday. Then we got Clint Lamb of Cover Crimson tomorrow at the top of the hour. So we're rolling the rest of the way with you guys. Phone lines open 205-342-9904. Right now we're discussing the way too early top 25 outlook, really in general, but especially for Alabama. I think the biggest headline right now, guys, is the 21 ranking by ESPN. Now, according to some of these other services, here's that list I was looking for. ESPN had us 21 in their way too early top 25. CBS 15, Sports Illustrated 15, On3 15, Yahoo Sports 12, Fox Sports 12. Not really a surprise there. I'm pretty sure they're like a Big Ten type network. Sport News 12, Bet Online and BetOnline was 8. and FanDuel was 11. So that's kind of the general consensus of where Alabama is being ranked right now in the way. And the reason I keep saying way 5 times, because again, guys, I mean, it's the national championship for this past season just ended last night, right? So we're way far out. And there's going to be a lot of things that can change, not necessarily with your roster at this point, because again, the new portal rules only allows for one portal. So, which just closed last Friday. Now, there will be some, more additions potentially because guys are still in the portal, which somebody asked a really good question. Well, what happens to the guys that don't get picked up? Because remember, there's like thousands in there. Unfortunately, some guys might be left stranded and might not have a place to play. So I guess if I had to offer any advice for anybody that is listening that might have a kid or somebody who's, entertaining some of this stuff, I guess I would just say, please be very careful about listening to the advice of some of these people, because there's going to be a lot of guys that thought they had a plan and it might not have worked out. And I'm sure there's going to be some fallback options where they probably could go play at a small school, whatever the case may be. But the portal is not necessarily what it seems for a lot of people. Anyway, that said, people are taking a lot of this stuff into consideration, whether it's, portal additions, your departures, all that stuff. I think 21 is probably a little too low for Alabama. I think it's a little, I wouldn't necessarily say disrespectful, but it's too low. But Chase, Reed, I want to get y'all's thoughts on this, but I'll offer mine. I think I'm not mad about the mid-teen area for Alabama. I'm really not, because even though the article went kind of hard, I will agree with some of the things that it was saying in terms of, you look at the way in which we lost some of our games. I mean, that's very fair if there's some concerns on that part. Then you talk about some of the key departures that we've had, and this team being a very young team. I think you're expected. Like, I'll be honest with you, I think at SEC Media Days, when that is, I think the over-under for our win total is probably going to be around 8.5. And I know that's probably going to make people upset to hear that, but I'm just telling you what the national media is going to probably have us at. You're already kind of seeing right now where they view Alabama. That's about in line for probably like an 8.5 win total, which, to be fair, last season it was at 9.5. It's not like that far off. It sounds worse than it probably is, but I think that's probably about right for a team that is replacing 4 out of 5 guys on the offensive line. I think we only have like 3 returning starters total on offense. You're going to have a new quarterback that's, going to be a talented player. I mean, I think Austin Mack and Keelan Russell both are very talented football players, but you always get a little bit of a knock when you're being viewed preseason when you don't have like a true returning starter at quarterback. I think everybody probably understands that. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you return your whole secondary, which you feel great about. I mean, literally everybody's returning outside of Damani Jackson, who really ended up kind of splitting time / being replaced by DJ Lee. So if you view it like that, you really get your whole secondary back. And then, Red Morgan, who played a lot more at Husky, because you lose Deshaun Jones and you lose Cam Calhoun to the transfer portal. But outside of that, everybody's back. But the front 7, I mean, it's going to look totally different. And, when you look at it, the biggest concerns, like the article actually said, I'll give them their props. They talked about, some of the average play that we've seen kind of on both sides, especially on the offensive line. And when you're talking about replacing an average offensive line with really young players that look to have good potential, but again, it's just that you're relying on potential. Nobody can pencil that in as a guarantee. Not saying you can't, expect or have hopes that it ends up being a lot better. You just got to be objective here. These people are, should be at least being objective. If that's the case, I think mid-teens is probably about in line where we're going to fall, preseason. Now, that said, we all know this, and I say this every year. I've said it last year. I said it the year before. I always say it every single year. Preseason rankings mean nothing. Matter of fact, during this next time out, I'm going to go back and look at the way too early, not even way too early. I'll go to like the actual fall preseason rankings and then see how this season concluded, because I'm almost positive many people chose Clemson, Penn State, and there's probably one more team that was probably
Texas.
a bad. What was that?
I said Texas.
Texas was another one. They actually didn't finish too bad, but Penn State and Clemson, a lot of people were choosing those teams as national champions ahead of the season, and we saw how those teams turned out. So again, we all know it means nothing, but it's always a talking point, and it's a place just to kind of start. I need to really pay attention and look at who these other teams had as departures and maybe who they brought in before I start trying to come up with my own list. Because I'll be honest, I've been paying so much attention to Alabama, I can't even tell you where all these other teams stand at this point. I can only just tell you from what I see out of this team. I mean, we have a lot of question marks on our roster. And that doesn't mean that they can't get answered. That doesn't mean that we can't. I mean, hell, anything can happen. You could have an Indiana type year. Do I see that happening? Personally, I don't. Not right now where we stand. But, you just got to start somewhere. So I think the biggest thing where I'm at, all these lists aside, spring ball, I think, will tell us a lot. And I'm not saying that's going to be the complete answer, but it'll give us a much clearer idea on how we're filling in some of these holes, how some of these new additions are going to fit in. Because we can always sit here and speculate, and I can go off of exactly what I feel like it's going to be the case. But depending on who fits where, who might be a better fit here, or whatever the case may be, things are going to be looking a lot different. But that being said, for me, I think mid-teen is not far off at all, and if anything, probably pretty fair given if you go back this past season, some of the highs, some of the lows, the departures, some of the additions. I think that's probably about in line. Reed, Chase, I threw both of y'all's names together on that one. Before we go to the people when we come back, man, I want to get y'all's thoughts real quick. 21, 15, some of these other rankings, man. Too low, too high? What do you guys think?
Well, Christian, I'm initially going to go with around the 15 to 17 range, specifically because, like you said, there's so much unknown going into this next season. And like you mentioned, I think spring ball will kind of reveal a little bit more of like, hey, are we leaning more upward toward, the 10, the 8, or are we falling kind of back because of these early players that are still needing to kind of get developed? But I think with especially the offensive line, the defensive line, even the quarterback play, there's so much unknown going into this next season that unlike last year, like last year's offensive line, it was mostly returners, right? And so we kind of had an expectation of like, okay, this is kind of what to expect. Maybe we could see some growth here. But with there being so much of, hey, who's going to be our left guard? Who's going to be our center? Who's going to be our main edge guy? There's so much unknown, I think, on this team, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It could turn out to be good. But just when we're looking at way ahead, it's you can't. It's
hard to really have a very confident. Yeah, I know. I think you make that's exactly. That's what I try to tell everybody too. And you also got to remember, we cover Alabama more extensively than any of these people, right? So like, we're going to have a better idea on, okay, this is how some of these additions will fit in, and okay, this is how this could end up. But a lot of these people, they don't see it or cover it that extensively. So when you talk about unknowns, that's kind of what they have to go off of. Just like if I were to try to give my thoughts on Michigan right now, I don't cover them deep enough to where, somebody that covers them would probably be able to say, oh, okay, no, well, this guy coming in, he'll fit here and he'll be able to fill in that gap where this guy left, So definitely interesting. But I want to get y'all's thoughts on that. 205-342-9904 is the number. We got Smitty up first when we come back, and more. We'll keep on rolling right here on the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC.
WTBC Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that in the chat? Let me see. No run game. O-line was garbage. Couldn't pass very well. No special teams. Yeah, I will say this. Like, O-line was definitely very inconsistent and needs to be much better. I do feel like sometimes they get a little too much. Not too much. How do I explain this? I'm not saying you're wrong in terms of saying like you're entitled to that for sure. And I understand. With the inconsistency of it and the frustrations of not being able to run the football, and even sometimes just not being able to be in sync or just execute at a high level, I get it. But I do feel like sometimes if you do watch, they actually played decent in certain games or for certain spurts. It just was not consistent at all. That said, you're right. Literally, what did that? I think it said we were 120. What was it, like 125th in rushing yards? We have 125th in rushing yards, which, to be fair, the other part to that is you got to remember we also didn't run the ball a whole bunch, which that's still a problem. But you're clearly going to be pretty low if you never even commit to it. So that's another important thing. Are we going to actually commit to the running game this upcoming season? I think somebody asked the question about Coaching changes, I'm not sure. I mean, as of now, there's no indication that's going to be the case. Could that change? We'll have to see. Could they be waiting and seeing who might become available or what somebody else might do? I think that's probably about where it's at, if I'm being completely honest with you. I don't think they necessarily are planning on for sure making a change, but I wouldn't be surprised if they might be saying, hey, we're going to kind of feel the temperature on a guy like Scott Huff and kind of see where that goes. Jake said it wasn't inconsistent. No, that's not true, man. I mean, they listen, in pass pro, believe it or not, in pass pro, they actually weren't as bad as it might have seemed all the time. You know what I mean? Like, just like watching them on tape, or even like Vanderbilt, they did a really good job in the running game. I mean, I think Jam had like 135, but just watching the execution from that game, and I'll show you guys the tape. It was actually a really good game, and that was a decent defensive line. Problem was, like, why could we not do that? Oh, appreciate that stat. So Indiana was 20 in the preseason AP poll last season. But no, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, you guys know me. I always talk about, I mean, the trenches need to improve. I'm just saying, I think sometimes we get, if you don't, if you get over invested in like all the negatives, you'll miss that they actually like had moments where, like even pass pro, like some of those sacks actually came from the backs in blitz pickup. You know what I mean? Like their biggest problem was inconsistency, not being able to execute at a high level, not getting great push, not being physical enough.
Here's college football playoff
Which is all
national
bad
champion
stuff.
Christian Miller on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC.
And welcome back into this Talking Tuesday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. We've been talking a little bit about this national championship game last night, 27-21 win over Miami for the Hoosiers. Undefeated season, first national championship for that program. Big congratulations to them, Coach Signetti. I mean, that was very impressive what they did. I know some people are going to write it off due to the age and all that, but listen, man, it's within the rules. I mean, listen, I mean, there's other teams with older players. I think you just got to give respect where it's due. I mean, they play really good football, and I think that's what we saw on display, not just last night, but over the course of the season. And I'll be honest, it's hard for me to root against a guy like Mendoza. I know he's quirky. I know his interviews are kind of they're very interesting, but I mean, the guy always gives credit to his Lord and Savior after every single performance. Always deflects all the attention onto his teammates. And then just seeing him play with that toughness and grit last time, I mean, that dude took some shots, man. That dude was getting hit. That fourth down call by Signetti, very gutsy. And then how about the execution by Fernando Mendoza, not being denied, taking a big shot? I mean, this guy, he's a warrior, man. And you can see why he was able to win over his teammates. And just it's very cool. And then I didn't know this, and I'm sure this might have been new to you guys as well, but he was a two-star recruit that allegedly was denied a walk-on to the University of Miami, where he's from. He's from that area. They denied him a walk-on. And this guy goes on, plays at Cal, I believe, transfers to Indiana, wins the Heisman Trophy Award, then goes down to his backyard and beats the team that denied him that walk-on opportunity to win a national championship. First one in Indiana history. I mean, the turnaround for that program is probably the craziest thing if you think about it. I mean, going from literally one of the worst, if not the worst, college football program ever to being an undefeated national championship team in this new era where you got to go through a gauntlet in the playoff system. I mean, very impressive, very impressive. I mean, older guys are not. I mean, maybe you just got to tip your hat to the coach for being smart. But I'll say this. It's not like they went and got like a whole bunch of old guys that came from a bunch of SEC schools, big time. I mean, these are guys from smaller schools, guys. So, I mean, like, we can say what we want, man, but that it's not just about age. Those coaches had a great eye for evaluating those guys. A number of them came over from James Madison with Signetti. To me, I think it's literally – I think the age is like low-hanging fruit, really, when I see a lot of people kind of using that. I think it's more so about the coaching, the system, their culture. Like just seeing, I mean, literally, it's all on display, guys. It's all on display. I mean, it's very impressive what they did. So I know it sounds like I'm giving them a whole bunch of credit, which I am giving them credit because it's rightfully deserved. I do that when I feel like it's due, and they definitely earned my respect, man. They definitely did.
I was going to add on to that a little bit. I watched Fernando Mendoza when he's over at Cal, especially the game when they beat Auburn. And I was like, hey, this guy's pretty solid, but was I expecting him to be a Heisman level quarterback? Absolutely not. And so I think you got to give big applause for that. And I think it'll also speak wonders this next season. Of course, once again, way far looking ahead, but they got a quarterback in Josh Hoover from TCU, who I think is, once again, a pretty solid guy. I don't see him being in the Heisman, talks, but if they can continue to develop quarterbacks how they did with Fernando, I mean, you're going to just have to give them praise, I mean, because then once again, it's one thing for the quarterback to naturally, be good, but it takes a great coaching staff and great development to make them into an elite quarterback.
Yeah, no, it does. And then just looking at their defensive system, I was talking about it last night. I'm like, looking at these guys, I don't think many of them were probably ever recruited by some of these big programs. I mean, you look at them, I mean, they're not the most physically imposing players. I mean, I know everybody was freaking out about the stat about, Miami's defense or offensive line on average is 40, 50 more pounds. And normally, like, you see that stat and you're like, damn, that's like the difference between, Alabama playing James Madison. We talked about the difference in stature between the trenches. But if anybody watched Indiana play, they don't need to be these big, massive guys. They got big, strong, physical dudes up front that, I mean, literally, they play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And, especially on the defensive line, you don't need to be 6'5", 6'6", or, I mean, you see a lot of guys that are like 6'2". They're more compact. They pack a punch. I mean, point of contact. I mean, they're physical. And that's what you saw out of those guys, man. They play with great technique. To me, I'm like, I don't know where they necessarily got all those dudes from. I don't know all their backgrounds. I know a couple of them are definitely older players, but one of them was a sophomore. But like watching 95, who I think got hit by a right hook from Fletcher after the game, like, just those big body dudes that are just strong, heavy-handed, physical guys, man. They got a number of those guys. I don't even know who their D-line coach. I had never heard of their D coordinator, any of those people until this season. So I definitely want to shout out their coaching staff because definitely very impressive. And speaking of Fletcher, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I couldn't help it. Every time I watched Mark Fletcher run the ball, he reminded me so much of Bo Scarborough. Kind of like the stature, maybe the hair a little bit, the way he runs, a little bit stiff as a runner, not like in a bad way, but just the way he runs feels a little bit stiff. But when he gets his foot in the ground and he hits that burst, right, he had that touchdown. I'm like, man, he just reminds me of like Bo Scarborough a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but my eyes kept kind of thinking that. That said, we got to go to the phone lines, 205-342-9904. We're talking national championship game, new season, everything. Hit the reset button. It's a new year, new season, and people are already talking about it. Alabama 21 on the way to early preseason poll with ESPN, 15. I'd say about 15 on average with all of them combined. I want to get y'all's thoughts. 205-342-9904. We got Smitty up first. Smitty, welcome in.
How's it going, Christian?
Man, I can't complain, brother. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Now I'm sad, though, there are no more afternoon, lunchtime, Monday Night Raws. I was loving that.
No, I hate that. I hate that, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah. Because I like making dinner, then sitting down and watching Raw. Yeah. When it's in the afternoon, like I just get done doing the show and whatnot. And I'm like, man, I don't want to watch Raw right now.
I feel you on that. Thing is about the game last night. And when people talk about like downplaying the Alabama getting a long snapper in the portal, a kicker, and a punter, special teams won a national championship in Indiana. Block punt. And like you remember Alabama had that punt block against Georgia, someone that blocked the guy to do his job, happened in Miami. That was the ball game. Something like that. And I'm glad that was a addition I was excited for more than Alabama in the portal, special teams, because field position with a punter. A kicker who could kick from 50 where you don't have to go for it all the time. Because you know this when you play. Sometimes you have a drive that has some penalties, so it's kind of clunky. You just want to leave with some points, make you feel good. And now you may have a kicker who may be able to do that. But the game, like with Mark Fletcher, the one thing I noticed, he doesn't pitter-patter around. He's put his foot in the ground, and you ain't arm tackling him.
Nope.
And I would love to see that with some of our guys the next year, make somebody miss. And I think because like with these way too early posts, I never get upset at it. And I'm glad Slade said it. I would be using that as fuel. I would love it. I love it. I was hoping they have us unranked start the season next year.
No, they couldn't. They couldn't do that,
Hey,
Smitty. That's. I mean,
hey.
I guess you're not too far from at 21. I'm not gonna lie, 21 is low. They whoever wrote that, but you could hear it in their voice though, in the reasoning. They definitely they felt some type of way about it. Yeah, I hate to say it like that, but they definitely were a little nitpicky.
Can I be honest, right? None of these teams, we know what they're going to look like to the season start because they have roster turnover everywhere. Georgia lost a lot of defensive players in depth like Alabama did. Ohio State lost a ton as well. And those three schools are mainly use a high school to develop, keep their guys, and we get something in the portal. Because everybody wants to run to this portal, say the portal this, portal that. Two things. Do you want to be Florida State? Mike Norvell been there for like 5 or 6 years. How many good teams he had? He loved the portal. One. You know, Miami. They have not done a good job on the crystal ball recruiting and developing quarterbacks. This is the 3rd year in a row they got to go to a portal quarterback. And guess what they have to do? They have to pay Darian Mensa $10 million reportedly, pay for his sister tuition, give him a nice crib.
Whoa, wait, $10 million?
There was like 7 plus like the 10. Those are numbers that was being discussed.
Wait, whoa.
Get their tuition paid.
For 1 year?
Yeah, it might be 1 year. Yeah. And here's the thing. That was reportedly that was out. But see, Alabama doesn't have to do that because they keep recruiting and developing young quarterbacks. And because Miami's desperate. See, what people don't want to bring up about the portal is you're going to take what the portal gives. If you want to keep depending on portal quarterbacks, what if you Miami and there are no good options at the portal? You have to be desperate because there ain't no more chairs when the music stops. I just want people to stop. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. You can finish. My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, people stop looking at the portal. Indiana had a perfect storm. A lot of his guys came with him, and they were bought in with him. And he ain't lost his assistants yet. If this was Nick Saban, both of them assistants would have been gone already.
Whoa, yeah. Well, trust me, it's coming. I mean, if you take Indiana from where they were in 2 years to undefeated national champions, best believe that defensive coordinator. Oh yeah, he's going to be gone. They're going to be gone soon, and we'll have to see how Cignetti handles that.
And that's different.
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, he's reloading the portal. We'll see. You know, the guys that he. But see, that's the thing, though. That's all I'm saying. Like to me, like. If you're going to hit the portal, like if you need bodies, you need bodies. But like, I just feel like those are the type of guys that you probably should like. That helps you out from that standpoint, and that's why I have us for like our portal grade. I can't go higher than the B- right now. Now we'll revisit it once everybody starts contributing and all that down the road. Yeah, but I just feel like with our youth, and if you haven't learned one thing from the past year or two in college football, man, experience and production that can trump talent. So. I just think you got to find a way to have some experience. And then I'm with developing our guys from within. But, man, when you're as young as we are, it just kind of has me a little concerned in terms of being able to make a serious run. Because I'm sorry. I just watched Miami last night. I watched, Indiana. I watched the likes of teams like Ohio State and some of these others. And right now, our team we just look like a different team than those types of teams. Just from my football eye, we just do. Yeah. And we have some ground to cover. Like we have to get more physical. We have to start playing and with much better execution. You know what I mean? And until we do that, I feel like we're kind of going to be in these same situations that we're finding us in. But I'll say this, Smitty, in terms of where we're at. Listen, I agree in terms of just it means nothing. I want to be clear when I say this. We're a sports talk radio show. This is what we do. We talk sports. We talk about stuff. So I understand it means nothing. You could be rated 21 and literally go and do what Indiana did. Matter of fact, that's why I pulled this up. Indiana was 20, like Chase and Reed said, going into the season last year. And hell, Clemson and Penn State were 4 and 2 respectively, and you saw how they finished. It means nothing. But but we do need. I'll say this: we have a lot of questions on this team right now, and it's just going to be interesting how they play out, and hopefully they play out for the better. But we'll have to see. I just have a wait and see approach. But the last thing I will say too, though, is I think the problem right now too with our fan base is a lot of people are still stuck under the belief that Alabama has to be 11-1, 12-0 every single year, or that's going to happen every year. And I think the quicker people learn there might be a year that Alabama loses 3 games. There might be a year Alabama could lose 4 games. I mean, like that's the reality of how college football works, especially nowadays more than ever. You know what I mean? Like, obviously we don't want that to happen, but I think that the quicker people learn that, hey, that can happen in today's college football. I mean, there's a lot of good football teams that lose 3 or 4 games. I mean, it's hard to win, not just win a playoff game, like even, and then take our schedule into consideration. I mean, you're talking about playing good football teams. I mean, Oklahoma, they're a good program. I don't know if they're on our schedule, but you get what I'm saying. They're in the conference. You got Texas A&M, a really good program. They're in the conference. I mean, you're playing these teams consistently. So I think once people kind of have a little bit more of they readjust their expectations, I think they'll understand and not take stuff so personal when they see these things, because it is what it is. Like, we're talking about an Indiana team that 2 years ago was literally the worst program in college football. But through the power of the portal and getting a coaching staff and getting these guys to buy in and all the stuff that they did, they were able to have an undefeated season. So, I mean, we're in a different space now. This is not the same college football that it was 10 years ago. I think people have to learn and respect that. And I think it'll make things a lot easier.
Yeah. I'll say this. One, I want people to understand Mario Cristobal went 5-7 and 7-6 the first 2 years. Alabama wouldn't have stood with that, right? They would have ran him out of town. But all these people, here's the thing, this is becoming the NFL. And I bet Kay on the board said, hey, because what people don't understand, these coaches talk to the athletic director and the boosters, and they give them a plan. Every coach, they got a plan.
Right.
And let's be real. If they kept most of those guys, I thought they would probably be 9-3. If I'm going to be 9-3, let's just reset, because that's what the NFL does. Hey, the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl all the time. Guess what happened? They had a down year. They're going to bounce back next year when Mahomes is healthy. Buffalo, great team. Look where they finished up in the playoffs. They didn't have a home game. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. This is a league where I want fans to understand. Just get in, be in the mix, and see what happens, because you're going to see a lot more of these teams in the SEC being young, and especially with our schedule, a 9-game conference schedule, and they will play one P4 out of conference. At 27, you're playing a 9-game SEC schedule and going to Ohio State to open the season. So we have to, and these ain't the days where you can stack a 3 deep with NFL guys, because these boys want to play and they're going to be out. So evaluations are the key. And I have confidence in the evaluations, Christian, because we saw lower-rated guys play well this season. And just because you're a 5-star, you may not be that good. And the 5 stars you had done pretty well. So I just think fans have to be patient, and I close with this, Christian. Hey, if all you people want Kay and the board fired, y'all want to pay, y'all want to come up with the money, pay to get rid of him and the staff, pay for the buyout of a new coach and a new staff, and pay that new coach and staff salary, and you got to rebuild the roster. How about you use that money and buy some freaking players? How about that? Have a great day,
well. Here's the thing. I will say this. I think from what I've learned, I will say I think the structure of how we do things does kind of hinder us from being able to maybe do as much as we might maybe want to do. I'll put it like that. So that is, but I hear what you're saying. You're right. I mean, listen, in this day and age, I mean, you're seeing the teams that do. I'm not saying every team, but the teams that do spend, like Oregon, Ohio State, while they might not necessarily want it this past year or two, whatever, they are consistently finding themselves in that conversation, because it doesn't guarantee anything, but it definitely gives you an advantage. I mean, you can't deny that. Going and getting good football players is going to keep it, just like your point about Miami. I mean, we kind of joke on them, spending for the quarterback, but to be fair, that's kind of the recipe. They're going to, get guys and develop guys in the trenches, which I love, because they're doing a damn good job there. But then they'd say, all right, we're not really developing a quarterback, so each year we'll just try to go find us one of the best quarterbacks and put him in this system, knowing that he's probably going to excel, and that's what we need to continuously be a competitive football team. So, I mean, it's all about approach. This is right now, our approach is more so we use the portal to get developmental guys and to fill space, and guys that we think can hopefully, again, come in and play. A little bit different of approach than what we're seeing a lot of these top teams do. Not saying it won't work. It's just kind of wait and see. But, we got a long time to go. But I think spring ball, like I said, will definitely tell us a lot. So, and that'll be here before we know it. I mean, a couple months and we're already talking spring ball. So,
yep. Hey, but I say this, Georgia's doing the exact same thing Alabama's doing. They just won the SEC. So I just think, and people remember that last Ohio State championship team, most of that were their own guys, but they supplemented with the portal. So I just think fans just got to be patient, be realistic, and like you said, spring ball will tell a lot. And I hope they have a spring game at least. And I know
we'll see. I have no updates on that, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of weird to go back to it, but maybe not. And let me ask you this before you go. I'm genuinely curious about this question because you said Georgia's doing it the same way we're doing it. When you look at Georgia the last 2 years, and I know the staff just got here, so it's probably not the best comparison, but I'm genuinely just curious what your outlook is on it. Do you feel like when you compare the way Georgia has developed their guys over the last 2 years and the way Alabama has developed their guys over the last 2 years, who would you say has the edge there? Or are they similar? I don't even have an answer for you. I'm genuinely asking you.
I don't have an answer because Kirby's been there long. He had his guys, right? I'm looking at the guys this staff has brought in, how they developed. Because there may be some guys who may not be a scheme fit who was carried over from the last staff. That happens in pro ball too, right? We all know that. But I'm looking at the guys they brought in. I look at the Brooks, the London Simmons, who everybody laughed at because he was a 3-star, no-name guy. Harold, we thought would be a guard, and he's killing that right tackle, the freshman All-American. So some of the young guys they bring it in are playing pretty nicely and doing pretty well. I look at those guys, right? That's what I'm looking at. And because some of the veterans, they were there before. But I got to admit, young Zay Pierre popped off this year when he finally got the real playing time. So that's why I say that I'm confident in his staff in developing. And I just think fans just got to be patient with that and realistic because you cannot, no one's ever going to be good enough. If you're going to live by Pete Saban when you was there, no one's going to be good enough. Nick Saban would never live up to that if he did it today. And I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but you know what I'm saying.
No, it's totally different.
So you cannot chase ghosts. All you can worry about is now, and like I said, I'm confident in these young guys because the ones who got in, they look pretty good so far. And some of them were unheralded. But you have a good one, Christian.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, Smitty. Be easy, brother. Good deal. All right, we got to hit a timeout. We come back. We'll keep on rolling on the phone lines, 205-342-9904. It's Talking Tuesday. We'll keep talking about these preseason way too early top 25 spots. There's something else I want to bring up. I think Christian, who's in the chat, not me, the other Christian, he's hanging out in the chat. He mentioned something, and he reminded me of something that I wanted to talk about today, and that was Coach Saban. Not anything that he did, while he was here, like we just were talking about with Smitty briefly, but he mentioned something on the Pat McAfee show, and it caught the attention of a lot of Alabama fans who immediately assumed that it had to be maybe a shot at one of his former players. I want to get my thoughts on that and get y'all's thoughts as well when we come back right here on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230, WTBC. All right, I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick, guys. I'll be right back. Give me 2 seconds.
Vision for your home? Let Shoot Masonry and Specialties transform those tired spaces in your home into vibrant havens. Whether it's a culinary dream kitchen, spa-like bath.
Of Tuscaloosa. Mercedes-Benz of Tuscaloosa.com. Mercedes-Benz of Tuscaloosa.com.
All right, sorry, I'm back. Let's see. That was a good point that somebody made, though, about now that the spring portal is no longer an issue, maybe they will actually go back to having a spring game because there's not so much the threat of having guys being poached. But we'll have to see. But that's a really good point. I didn't think of it like that. So I'm glad you brought that to my attention. You got 2 years to develop and get production out of players. And that's the other thing, guys. The only thing I think that's risky about over-relying on pure development is that there's no guarantee that those guys are definitely going to stick either, you know? But the reason I asked Smitty about his question, because he was comparing it how Georgia does it too. Now, granted, Georgia went to the portal, at least last season, they got them some skill guys on the outside, and that helped them out tremendously, some experienced players. So, little bit different of an approach in my opinion, but I do agree they do lean on their development. But if I had to judge maybe both programs' development over the last 2 years, I probably would give the edge to Georgia right now. But like he said, you know, that staff has been there and they've had their guys that they've been working with. So it's a little bit probably not the most even comparison there, but I don't know. I just was curious. If LSU comes out of the box strong, UGA keeps winning, Bama fans won't like losing 3 games a year. Coaching is going to be at a premium in the SEC and huge at Bama if you have to develop players. Absolutely, and I agree 100%. I agree 100%. And I think LSU is going to end up being good. I mean, the way they're attacking the portal, I mean, listen, they're going to be a good team. And I mean, I'm with you. I know a lot of people aren't going to be satisfied if that's a consistent thing, but I'm just saying, like, I think when the faster people can kind of, you know, come to grips with, hey, there might be a season that you lose 3 games, especially when you have a young team, like that's pretty common. I think it'll make them not, you know, get so upset when they think about some of this stuff. But I get it, though. People still are kind of, you know, living in the era of like 10 years ago. It's just we're just not there no more. I feel like part of the reason Georgia develops better is because you don't see the people leaving in the portal like other schools. I will be honest, Georgia has a lot of players that leave the portal. They do. They just do a good job of just finding guys to fit in their system and keep it rolling. And welcome back into this Talking Tuesday. This is the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Back to the phone lines. We go 205-342-9904. We got George up next. George, welcome in. George, are you there? Going once. Going twice. George, you might have dropped. If you want to circle back, you already know the drill. Just 205-342-9904 is the number. Let's get into this conversation real quick. We'll circle back when we have some more folks call into the whole preseason deal. But I want to talk about this real quick because it was brought to our attention yesterday, I think after we were doing the show, but Coach Saban was on set of the Pat McAfee show, you know, previewing the national championship game. But he was asked a question. I don't even remember what the question was exactly. But I think it was pertaining to stars. And while we're talking about rosters and all this stuff, he basically was asked about Indiana and how, you know, they don't really have 5 stars. And he went on to give a very common example that he uses very often when he discusses the whole star system and whatnot. And a lot of Bama fans immediately said, oh, man, he's taking a shot at one of his former players here. So I want you guys to listen to the clip real quick, and then I'll give you my thoughts on if that in fact was the case, but I guess I need to find it first. But I'm just going to give you a spoiler. If you guys thought he was taking a shot at one of his former guys, he wasn't. But let me play the clip first, and then I'll explain.
Star disparity between 2 teams. Like we were talking about it a little bit earlier. Is there a chance that some of these guys for Indiana, maybe in a crucial moment, like we see, like, hey, this is why this guy was at JMU and why he didn't initially, you know, Indiana has just beat the shit out of everybody and they haven't really been 10 championship.
Well, you know, I got a little theory about the first part of what you said about the stars. We never ever looked, and I know Sig doesn't either, at how many stars a guy has. Because I think what you all need to do is look at who's giving out the stars.
No. Yeah.
They don't know their ass from a handful of sand when it comes to what a football player is. So why would you as a coach depend on somebody who's not even a coach evaluating players to give them stars? You know, I say all the time, Josh Jacobs had no stars. Damian Harris was a 5-star. They were both really good players, don't get me wrong, but Josh Jacobs was a first-round draft pick and Damian Harris was a third round. Josh Jacobs still playing, Damian Harris is not. So when you evaluate the players on your own in terms of the criteria of what you're looking for at each position that fit in your system and the criteria of the kind of people you want to make the culture of your team what it is, which I think SIG has done a fantastic job of, because it's culture over system. I mean, if you don't have a good culture, you're never going to execute the system no matter how good it is. So that's what they've done such a great job of at Indiana, in my opinion.
So that was Coach Saban talking yesterday on the set of Pat McAfee. And immediately, you know, as soon as he mentioned Damian Harris's name, whose name is probably not the most popular amongst the Bama fan base, and we all know, I mean, he's, you know, very outspoken, and when his opinion definitely, you know, can be very critical of Alabama at times, but, you know, he's entitled to his opinion. That's his own opinion. That said, immediately people jump to the conclusion that, oh, he's taking a shot at Damian because of what he said. And I'm just going to say this. I can guarantee you guys what he just said had nothing to do with taking a shot at Damian Harris, nor did it have anything to do with what Damian Harris has said about Alabama. I know that might be upsetting for a lot of people to hear, that we're hoping that was the case, but I promise you that wasn't the case. The reason I know it wasn't the case is, number one, he wouldn't just take a shot at a former player like that. That's not in Coach Saban's character. I know he's mentioned something like when Greg McElroy, I think, had spread a rumor about something about him returning to coaching, and he was frustrated about that. Maybe that's a little bit different. That is directly talking about him. He wouldn't do that with one of his former guys who's just doing his job in the media, whether it's a little critical or not. Number two, if you heard what he says, I say this all the time. He uses that example very often. Matter of fact, I've heard him use that example before, right? Because the premise of it is, it's not to take a shot at anybody. Damian Harris was a team captain just like myself. We were both team captains in 2018. And Damian did a lot of great stuff for the university. But what he's saying is, you can't rely on star rankings that are given out by people, which, get this part, he said, that aren't coaches, who don't even know their rear from a handful of sand. And so the point is that he's making is, you know, if he just relied on star rankings when he was recruiting, he wouldn't have been able to get a guy like Josh Jacobs, who some people, I think, said that Josh might have been a 4-star on like one site. Regardless, Josh was a late addition who got recruited by Alabama like at the last minute and was flying under the radar. But if he relied solely on the star rankings, a player like that never would have seen time in Alabama. Quinnen Williams, another one of my teammates, who ended up being one of the best defensive tackles to play here during Coach Saban's time. I don't remember what Quinnen was ranked, but Quinnen wasn't necessarily a 5-star. I do know that. I don't know if he was like a 3-star, probably more so on like the 4-star range, but you get my point. He wasn't the highest rated guy in the class, but ended up playing better than probably majority of the higher rated defensive linemen that did come in with him. That was all he was trying to say here. It wasn't taking a shot at Damian. And if anything, if anybody knows, Damian retired because he had a neck injury. You know what I mean? Damian played 5 years and had a solid career. It's no knock. It's just, here's one guy who's, you know, led the league in rushing yards and doing all this stuff, but he was a 3-star. And here's a guy who's like the number 1 rated running back. You can't just put all your eggs in that basket. And so for the people that sometimes get frustrated when I make comments saying like, hey, I don't trust the rankings because I don't know who gives them, and I don't really trust if they're actually watching tape, or if they are watching tape, if they actually know what they're watching. He just said it too. That man, y'all's favorite, just said it too. So it's not taking a shot at anybody in the media or anything. It's just the reality of it. Like, if I'm getting medical advice, I would probably trust a doctor or a former doctor, somebody who's practiced medicine more so than somebody that just read a bunch of stuff online about it, then was giving advice. That's all he's kind of saying here. So anyway, I know we had a break real quick because, you know, the phone line said I got dropped, but now we're back going. But I wanted to throw that out there just because I saw that, and I know maybe people are just going to say, oh, you're just defending Damian. You know, of course, I'm always going to look out for my guys because I know, you know, what we put into this thing, and I know, you know, what his true intentions are, whether it's very critical or not. Not saying I agree with everything he says, because I don't. And I can say that he, you know, some of the stuff he's probably gone a little far with his takes. I have no problem saying that, but the whole war going on with that whole thing is, I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I'm really not, but it is what it is. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Love to get y'all's. 205-342-9904. We got to hit a timeout when we come back. We keep on rolling right here. Tide 100.9, 1230. WTBC.
The Tuscaloosa Thread News Update.
Q is the 3/4, but yeah, him redshirted with everybody subbed on him. Yeah, Quinnen was Quinn, I think he was like on like borderline 4-star, something like that, but he ended up being better than, I don't remember who came in with him because he was younger than me. But I remember when Quinnen was a redshirt. Wait, let me think. Did he get here in 16 or 17? I want to say he got here in 16. Because I remember when he was like a young redshirt and he would do some good stuff, but like, they were telling him like, dude, you got potential, man. Like, you just got to figure it all out. Then I remember, I think it was like, 16. That's right. That's exactly right. Because I was like, I want to say he was in the room with John Allen and those guys. And I remember like we used to like see some of the stuff he was doing. We were like, bro, he's got some potential, man. He just got to keep putting it together. I remember the next year you were like, damn, he's developing way quicker and better than a lot of people had realized. And then by my senior year, 2018, which was his third year, when we ended up leaving after that year, he completely took over. But if you would have asked somebody when he was, first getting on campus, I don't think anybody would have envisioned him being that player at that point. I think it just goes to show you, like Coach Saban's saying, the star ratings don't matter, but you just look for that potential. You look for guys that have these, traits and abilities that could translate. And then with the right coaching and development, they could end up being a special player. And that's exactly what happened with Quinnen. And that's why development is so key. And that you can't rely. And that's why I always tell you guys, man, like even like the portal rankings, like ignore that stuff, man. I promise you, ignore it. I genuinely don't know who ranks those guys. I don't. Because we've watched tape. You know what I mean? Like we've watched tape. I think like Tompkins, who's probably the highest portal guy we brought in, I think he was rated really high. Watching his tape, I think he has potential, but I would almost argue that there shouldn't be such a big gap between him and the guy from South Carolina who's like rated way lower in the portal. To me, I don't think there's there's not even that big of a gap between those two guys to justify where they're. So that's what I'm saying. The rankings don't even really make sense. It's kind of a waste. We got a super chat from Adam. Adam, what's up, man? He says, Christian, my biggest takeaway from yesterday was physicality. Two tough, fearless, explosive teams at the point of attack. DeBoer is a great coach, but could his philosophy move Alabama away from the physical edge that defined its title teams? I agree 1,000%. Last night, when you're watching those two teams play, you're seeing dominant trench play on both sides. Indiana's O-line is a really good physical group, right? They get after it. They're tough. You can say the same thing about Miami's O-line, but then it was crazy watching, the defensive line of the other teams almost making the other group almost just come back to reality and just look, you know what I mean? Because you got just such physicality going on in there. You know what I mean? Like great technique and really just a great battle. It was like a war in the trenches. But that's exactly how I view that game last night. It was just a damn good football game. And that's why I said, if you're just being honest, if you compare what those two teams look like to how Alabama looked this past season, if you take the crimson glasses off, you could see a difference. There's a difference in those in the football teams that played last night and what we saw out of our team from this past season. Even like when we were playing good football, like we were making big plays, but we didn't play with that same level of physicality and grit. Not on a consistent basis, at least. To your point about could DeBoer's philosophy move Alabama away from that? I know he's still listen. They practice physical. They preach it. They definitely try to incorporate it, but it's one thing to just do it and have it like turn on and off, and it's another to like that be your identity. That's never really been, in my opinion, from what I know about him, his identity for his teams. So I think that's kind of part of the reason it looks the way it looks. I'm not saying you can't win like that, but I think you just have to be accepting if with him as your coach. I mean, that's kind of his plays. They pass the football a lot. Their teams, his defense has never really looked physically dominant like we've seen. That's just not their identity. So I mean, I think that's a great point. Hold on, we're gonna come right back. And welcome back to the Talking Tuesday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTVC. About to go back to the phone lines. Before we do that, we had a great question by Adam. I want to get my producer's thoughts on this. Chase and Reed behind the glass. Adam was saying yesterday, all you saw was that physicality, that toughness, that fearlessness of just two trenches going back and forth and just battling it out, right? Especially at the point of attack. His question is, though, with DeBoer being a great coach, we all know that. But could his philosophy, meaning not necessarily seeing his teams play with that same level of phizicality, at least at Washington, some other places. I mean, they're always good teams, but they just look a little bit differently built than what we saw last night. His question is, do you think that could take away from some of the physicality and the edge that some of these former Bama teams had? And I was saying, I mean, I think, like my dad said, you take on the persona of the coach. If that's kind of how he likes to play, throwing the football a lot more, not really being known to have that dominant, physical standard necessarily. I mean, that's part of what you're going to get. Not saying you can't win with it, but it's definitely going to look a little bit different than the likes of what we saw last night. That's just my opinion. Reed, Chase, you guys had an opinion on that?
Christian, I think I'm going to have to agree with you there. When it comes to Coach DeBoer's kind of play style, I think, and I was mentioning it to Chase because I was like, that's a really good, question, right? But when you really think about it, I think Kalen DeBoer, at least from what I've seen with my two eyes, is that he doesn't maybe want, of course, everyone wants physicality, but I think he emphasizes more maybe on explosiveness and speed. Maybe he feels like that's a little bit more important. And I think we'll kind of see that this next season with the guys that he brought in. Maybe those guys aren't as like strong. Like I'm talking that's like their main attribute. But maybe these guys can fit his system a little bit better of, hey, this guy, guard can pull really well, So I don't think it's going to necessarily take away from the culture, but it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit to adjust to.
Yeah, and that's a great way to put it. I mean, you talk about explosiveness. Like, again, you can win games like that. Now, I would argue a lot of the teams that I see consistently having success as a program, it's like when he played Michigan. Michigan was a much more physical football team in that game, and we saw how that went. I mean, their ability to run the football, just pounding the rock. It makes a difference. To me, and that's why I would prefer more of the philosophy of being a dominant team in the trenches, being a lot more physical. But again, I mean, you just got to just roll what you got. And I'm not saying they don't try to be physical. I mean, I watch their practices and their scrimmages. They get after it. I mean, this team, they try to do it, but I just think when your core philosophy is dependent more so on the explosive passing plays, you're not going to see that dominant run game like you saw out of Miami or Indiana or some of these other football teams. That's just not really what they do. So you just kind of got to. So I guess to answer Adam's question, I mean, I think it will take away from. If you were hoping it would look like what you saw last night, I don't think we'll ever really look like that under Kalen DeBoer. That's just not how his offenses are built. You're more so built like an explosive, pass-heavy offense is going to rely on, trying to be explosive through the air. And listen, it worked early on in the year, but the problem is it eventually caught up with us. I just don't think it's super sustainable to rely so much on that explosiveness. But again, he gets paid a lot of money to do it. You got to trust and rely on him and his staff, and that's about all you really can do. But let's do this because I know we got a couple folks on the phone lines. Let's hit this timeout just to catch up, and then we come back. We're going to go straight phone lines the rest of the way, and we'll wrap things up on the radio side of things right here on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230, WTBC.
At Mercedes-Benz of Tuscaloosa, luxury may be closer than you think. Right here.
Hold on one second. Let me pull this up for my guy Adam because I don't have it written down yet. Once we get everything squared away. But again, shout out to Adam for the super chat, man. Any law needs. Adam did say he's got a whole bunch of stuff in the works that's coming out, but it's going to be Lamparello Law, Education and Advocacy. Focuses on traditional legal representation, advising high school, college, and graduate students on applications, resumes, personal statements, test prep, and exam strategy. So make sure you guys get with my guy Adam on that. Again, stuff is still in the works, but should be lamparello-law.com once it gets rolling. And I'll keep you guys posted on that. But big shout out to our guy Adam, man. Seriously, always supporting us. Clearly this away, but also just always being tuned in, man. Adam's always listening and supporting us, and we appreciate all of his support and contributions, man, over the years, man. He's been rocking with us for years now, man. Adam's OG, man, and we appreciate him. Let's see some of these chats before we come back real quick. Rather see what we saw last night instead of listen, I'm with you. You guys got to remember, man, I'm trying my best to try to make everybody happy here by trying to, but yeah, I mean, if I'm keeping it a buck, that when I think of Alabama, I think of what we saw last night, the way those two football teams are playing. That to me is what I think of when I think of Alabama football. Like personally, no, I'm not big on being pass happy and doing all that. But again, it's kind of what we're working with right now. So you just got to make the most of it. I mean, they try to run the football, but not enough. We don't commit to the running game. That's the thing. I mean, you can be pass, and that's why I said a couple weeks ago, you can throw the football a good bit. Like that can be one of your key attributes, you know what I mean? Or one of your philosophies, like trying to hit explosives. Because you do need explosive plays. But my argument is do that and set it up with the running game. Like establish your standard up front first and foremost, right? Like establish that identity needs to be established. Then you can build off that. You can throw the football off of that. You know what I mean? But you have to be a physical football team, and everything starts up front. Without that, it's no good. Without that, you just basically are playing 7-on-7, and that's what I don't want us to turn into. Which it started to feel like that the way we just, with our inability to run the football, it felt like we were so reliant on passing the football, which you guys saw what happened. That's why I kept saying earlier in the year, like Ty's playing great, we're having success. His offense looks great, but we need to start running the football a little bit better. So I mean that just needs to be a priority this offseason. I've only seen Grubb for 1 year. So I don't know. Like, can we trust that he's really going to lean into trying to get that corrected? I don't know. I really don't. I wish I had an answer for you guys. I don't know. But I always take it a step further. I mean, that's when it falls on to me, that's the head coach. If your coordinator's not doing something, you need to address it. Somebody needs to address it. But again, they have a lot of time to figure out their system and do what they need to do. But like everybody's got their own thing. I mean, you look at Miami, they like to run the football, they set things up. They run the football a lot. They work the perimeter with their screen game. They take their shots. It works for them. Indiana, they implement an RPO system. It keeps defenses on their heels. They run the football very effectively. It keeps the defense honest. Then they start working, quick slant off the RPO game, and they're very efficient at driving the football in and working the time of possession. That's their bread and butter. It works. But notice the two things that those teams have in common. They're both balanced, and they both have the ability to run the football and throw the football and make explosives. That we did not have, and that's what we need to address this offseason if we want to see this offense improve next season. Clip that. Hopefully that worked this time, because last time it didn't. Got to get my clips, man. And welcome back into this Talking Tuesday edition. Let's try to just run through these phone calls real quick. We got George up first. We'll get about 2 minutes apiece. George, welcome in.
Hey, how you doing, Christian? Just a couple of quick comments.
Sure.
The game last night, what really impressed me was the economical movement that Indiana had. They didn't waste any steps. They took good angles. Everything they did was there on line. And when you take good angles, when you're tackling, they don't miss tackles. So all that to me is just tremendous coaching. Their angles were good. They didn't miss tackles. They were just very well coached. And what bothers me, I want DeVore to be successful. But we played 3 games where we didn't have a clue of what we were doing. The coaching was horrible. And I know it can be better, and it needs to be better. The reason we, in some early season procrastination, is because if anybody saw those 3 games, especially the last game, I wouldn't put us in the top 25. But I know that we can do better, and I know that our talent's better. Our coaching staff has got to do a much better job of getting the players ready to play, get them fundamentally sound. And as far as running the game versus passing the game, Indiana was able to do both of them very, very well. Not in 2020, we did both of them very, very well. Najee Harris ran the ball good. Mac Jones threw the ball good. Devontae Smith caught the ball good. I think if you're going to have a championship team, you got to do both of them well, because there's going to be a time when one isn't working very well. And I just want us to be well coached. You know, Christian, it didn't bother me that we lost to Georgia. I was at that game, but the way we lost was sickening. You know, and I know that we could play Indiana better than we did. The way we lost was sickening. And it just upsets me. I mean, I don't think we need to have patience. I just think we need to be coaching the players up well. We got enough talent. And granted, if you're going to have a good team, you're going to have good freshman players, and you're going to have to be able to cherry pick the portal. And another thing, in today's world, a roster is year to year. It isn't 3 or 4 years down the road or 2 years down the road. It's year to year. So you got to do a tremendous job of evaluating and a tremendous job of coaching them up. And that's kind of my say. What do you think about my thoughts?
I think you're spot on everything you said, George. I don't even think I need to add anything to it, man. I think you hit the nail on the head with literally everything you said. And sounds like you might need to go put in an application, join the staff, man. I think you could offer them some good help. Hey, George, we're going to roll real quick to squeeze these calls, and I appreciate it. Seriously, great stuff as always.
Take care, my friend. See ya.
Yes, sir. We'll see you. We got Jarvis up next. Jarvis, welcome in.
How's it going, Tristan? How you doing today?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Just want to get my 2 cents on things. I watched the game last night. The game was very physical, but I did see and I did pay attention to the details of the game.
Mm-hmm.
When you have Indiana that's able to pass the ball and run the ball, okay? And then when you have Miami, great defense. The defense pretty much helped them to stay in the game. But when you have a team, and what we know through our team with Alabama, when you're one-dimensional, you can't stretch the field, what they're going to do? Bring the safety down. There'll be more people in the box. That's all Indiana had to do last night, because they knew that Miami could not stretch the field. You only got one dynamic player as far as skill players, which is the wide receiver, the freshman. That's pretty much the only guy that you pretty much have that's dynamic as far as a wide receiver. The other wide receivers, Indiana was not worried about that. That's why they was bringing everybody down. They didn't have to do too much. So that's the reason. That's how I saw it. It was a one-dimensional team that couldn't throw the ball on the ball down the field. Now, that being said, I'm going to go over to the next subject. When it comes to, I'm a big Alabama fan. I love my team. But we have to give the boy time, okay? He's putting together a team where he can run his scheme. What is it good if you have just only talented players, but they cannot run your scheme? You need players that can run your scheme, and you need coaches to develop those players. So give him time. He's working to bring those players in to run his scheme. If you look at the 2 years he was with Washington, those tackles and guards, they were very athletic, and they pulled a lot. They was pulling guards and tackles, but it was misdirection. So if you watch those tapes, they was able to have a running game. We're not the old Nick Saban team where we just pound the ball. We got them big hauls up front. That is gone. Okay, allow the board to bring his culture into Alabama. It's a new culture. We have to move on. I love Nick Saban, but we have to give the board his shot with his players, his scheme. Now this year, we're going to see whether he can develop players and see if he can produce. Because now he have the quarterback. He bringing in the offensive line, even though they're young, but we got to have some develop on that O-line. And we're going to see. But the defense, I'm very confident in the defense because we're getting big guys that can clog the gap up more. But we're going to see on the defensive side whether they can develop as well. So we're going to see whether this coaching staff can develop players and get them to the next level. So I think we're on the higher side of the trajectory when it comes to Alabama football. So just give him time. He had a good running back at Washington that went over 1,000 yards. He can do this, but we're just not going to be that hard-nosed, pounding run game, bully ball. We're not going to be that team, okay? Right. But I'm very confident in the board on which way we're heading. So that's where I'm looking at it. And then when it comes to the new age of football, I just seen a semi-pro team out there with players that had a lot of experience, and that's what I saw out there. So age, I told my friend last night, age does not matter. When you have players that's already been implemented as far as in the culture standard of going to the weight room, going to, as far as make sure their dieting is good, when they already been doing it for 3 or 4 years, compared to a freshman and a sophomore, there's a big difference. So when you got guys out there that's buying to Indiana system, the coaching up there, his culture, and he got some veteran guys, they're on board. So yeah, I just saw a semi-pro team out there last night, and now what you just have showed the whole world, the big dogs coming in now, because now they finna implement that in their program. You know what? I'm finna go get some skilled guys. I'm put aside enough money for the portal to go get some guys that's already in the rotation of how the college lifestyle works and the structure of football works. I can bring them in, develop them more, and boom, I can get more production out of them. But like you said earlier in the podcast, it can be a hit and miss. Just because you want to go get a developed player, that doesn't mean that they're going to produce.
Right. And I was going to say, listen, and I appreciate you calling. Now, I will say, I'll give a quick little pushback. I know I don't have much time. I agree with the fact that you got to give them time. I always say that. Now, we are going on year 3, so let's take that into consideration. You ain't just get here. Now, but you got to also remember, though, the one thing I will get pushback on, you said we went and got guys that are bigger bodies up front. I disagree on that. The guys we brought in are more elusive, finesse guys, which is kind of one of my concerns, given that I think we need to be more physical up front. In terms of the defensive lineman, outside of Green, he's like the only one that I've watched on tape, and I've watched all of them, that I feel like he's one of those guys you're describing to eat blocks up and whatnot. The second thing I'll say is you made the point about the semi-pro team last night, but then why are you not concerned about us having a team where our oldest guy on offense, we literally have like maybe one senior on offense. The other guys are like all at the most just like sophomores, redshirt sophomores. So you're acknowledging that experience is a big deal, but then everybody gets frustrated when I say 2026 is a little concerning given the youth and lack of experience. You get what I'm saying? So like we can't have it.
I totally agree with you on that one. Because we very young offensive line.
Yeah, on the offense, all over the place. So that's all. So I hear what you're saying, Jarvis, and I respect it. But I'm like, we can't have it both ways. On one minute, you're saying, "Oh, we got to give them time, let them develop." On the other, we're saying, "Hey, man, but look what those old experienced guys just did to a lot of young talent." We're the team with a whole bunch of young talent. That's a little, we might be a year out from letting him develop. And the problem is at Alabama with the standard. Are we willing to wait that long? Those are just fair questions. Out there. See, okay, so now, listen. I heard all the fans talking first. I'm like,
the fans said no. The fans are saying no.
See, there we go. Now we got it out to Jarvis. No, I'm kidding. Hey, really good stuff. Hey, call back another time. I love to chop it up more. We got to get out of here, but I appreciate it for calling, Jarvis.
Okay, I'm gonna call back, man.
Yes, sir. Sounds good, brother. All right, good deal. I hate that we left folks stranded, but stay on the line if you guys want to talk to Wyatt the next show. We got to get out of here. Give him room to get on here. This has been the Miller's Edge. We'll see you guys tomorrow right here, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Thanks, Reed. Thanks, Chase. I'll sit on here and answer some of these questions real quick in this chat. Tell Wyatt I apologize for I just wanted to give him some time, but I had to respond. I had to respond to my guy Jarvis just then. I think he might have been a first-time caller too, if I'm not mistaken, but so I didn't want to rush him off, but I'm like, hold on, man. Like I hear what he's saying, but like some of it, I'm like, wait, listen, we can't have it both ways now. He has 2 years to figure it out at most, just being honest. I think that's pretty fair. Oh, Reed, I'll see you next week, man. Be safe with your travels, brother. Yeah, It's so tough, man, because I agree that you need to probably be patient. You got to how do you put it? Let him get his guys. Let him incorporate stuff. But here's my thing: like the first year we had Jalen Miller at quarterback, very dynamic player, one of the most explosive players, in the country that season, and while he is, super special and explosive, I could understand if, might not have been the best fit for what they wanted to do with their offense, which is fine. So it is what it is. My point in being is the first year I had no problem with, all right, maybe the offense wasn't exactly, we were tailoring things to fit the skill set of our best player at the quarterback position, which was Jalen Miller, which is exactly what you should do as a quarterback. And that gives you the best chance. I mean, when you got a quarterback that's that dynamic, has a great deep ball, but can threaten you with speed with his legs, that's exactly what you should do. And we saw, I mean, that same quarterback brought this team in 2023 led them to a championship win in the SEC championship game. Was just this close to playing a national championship game. So long story short, as great as Jalen is, I totally understand the argument that, hey, he might not have been the best fit for Coach DeBoer's system. There's nothing wrong with saying that. And so I agreed. I'm like, all right, the next year we'll see if this offense can, be even better with maybe a better fit in terms of skill set. Here's my issue, though. I mean, I know Ty Simpson, wasn't necessarily their guy, but Ty Simpson was an experienced player, not necessarily experienced by game reps, but you get what I'm saying. I mean, this was his 4th year in college. He had spent the year prior with this staff and in this system. And I can honestly say that the offense regressed. I think anybody that looks at, both the past 2 seasons, I mean, if you're honest with yourself, not even have to be that, just look at the numbers. The offense regressed. So my thing is, I think at some point we have to stop saying like, oh, well, they just need this. They just need this, because I think what's going to happen, or I think what you guys are going to realize is, I don't think it's, they just need this time to do this, because to me, the quarterback was a big one. Like, all right, this quarterback is a good fit for your system. How is he regressing? Well, I know, because you still are kind of neglecting the guys up front, which I wouldn't say they necessarily neglected it last year, because going into the year, again, if you just don't look at PFF and you just look at who we had, you wouldn't have said we had the number 1 offensive line like they said, but you would have said, all right, you got a 3rd-year offensive tackle who's got experience. He's played a lot of snaps. You got a very experienced center who's been in your system. You bring in a guard from Texas A&M who's played a number of snaps, who's experienced, a physical guy. And then the right side, you had to go with a true freshman at tackle / guard. And, Wilkin was very inconsistent. But what I'm getting at is that still needs to be addressed, which is clear. All that being said, I look at the moves we made this offseason. I'm telling you guys, you might not believe me, you might not listen to me. I just feel like the moves we made this offseason weren't in line with the staff that's saying, hey, like, we need to make these necessary changes to be an even better football team. I'm just telling you from my perspective, and you're welcome to disagree, but I've played a lot of football and I've watched a lot of football and I've watched all these guys. I just can't sit here and say that these guys are like some different fit than what we had. Like, I'll give you an example. The Texas guy, who I think can be a good player with good development, he's got a lot of physical tools to work with. Him, even like the Ole Miss guy, I haven't seen a whole bunch of them, but even just his stature and kind of what I've gathered, I think like from like just like the high school tape I saw, I mean, those 2 guys, which are guards, they're not any different than a guy like Dewberry, who was a big, heavy, physical guard. Like, so what I'm saying is that doesn't fall in with the narrative that we're getting his guys, unless you're just being guys that he's given a chance and they're going to buy into his culture. If you're saying that, maybe there's an argument there. But in terms of skill set, some of the guys that they got for the offensive line aren't hardly any different. I mean, Haywood, more of an athlete than Caden Proctor. I'll give you that one. The center, Brailsford's a better athlete than that guy, but at least he fills in kind of that similar bill, pretty athletic guy. But outside of those 2, the other 3, Strayhorn and the 2 I just mentioned, those guys aren't like different. They don't have different profiles. And receiver room, I mean, we had a damn good receiver room last year. I mean, the guys that we just brought in this year, there's nothing really. You brought in Noah Rodgers, probably replacing that Isaiah Horton role. I just don't see the moves aren't in line with what a lot of fans are saying in terms of he's getting. I'm always just talking too much. That's the easiest way to put it. The moves that we made to me don't necessarily feel in line with what the narrative is. We got a $25 super chat from Lynn. He says, Bama fans aren't used to uncertainty. The standard has been playoff or bust for 15 plus years. Now the question isn't about talent or facilities, it's about identity. What are your thoughts? No, I agree 100%. The standard is what it is, and we know why that is. I mean, when you have sustained success that long, without a doubt, I mean, people continue to expect that. I've just learned to readjust my expectations, given number one, college football is a lot different, and number two, just from what I've seen. I just go off of I go off of what I've seen and what I've observed. And I go with it accordingly. I mean, until I see some moves or things that give me the confidence to say, okay, these are my expectations, I'm going to, up them. I just can't confidently do that. But I agree. I think talent, I mean, do we have the same level of talent that we had 10, 15 years ago, like you're talking about? No, we don't. I wouldn't go that far. But do we have enough talent to be a good football team? I think so. I mean, let's just look at last season. Like, let's look at who we had last season. Like, I think we had a really good receiver room. I mean, going into the year, I thought our backs could definitely Jam being an experienced guy there, than having a lot of the young, potential guys. And I thought we had a decent room. Probably turned out to not be as good as maybe what I anticipated or others. Offensive line, I never agreed with the whole sentiment that they were the number one group in the country. I thought they were a decent group, but I don't know where that came from. But still, I mean, I feel like you had enough talent to be a good football team to be better than we ended up being. So it's not that. And we're recruiting well. So we should, it's not, you're right. It's not necessarily talent. There's definitely not facilities, nothing like that. I think you're spot on, Lynn. Right now, Alabama's kind of like at a crossroads where you're moving on from the Saban era, rightfully so, right? I mean, you're not supposed to just live in the past. We know that, but there still is something about the culture and identity here, whoever the coach is. I mean, people just have an expectation for what Alabama football should look like, whether that's right or wrong. That's just the way it is. And what we've seen over the last couple of years just hadn't really necessarily been in line with that. I mean, it's just being honest. It's just a different look. But I will say, I mean, the game changes. I mean, you got to, understand and respect that. Just like I remember when Lane got here, things looked a little bit different. We were throwing the football a lot more. We still ran the ball. We still committed to the run game. 2015, Derrick Henry broke all types of rushing records. But with Lane, there was definitely a lot more RPO, a lot more shots downfield than you probably saw from when, I don't even remember who the coordinator was years prior to that. So, I mean, things evolve, but I just feel like right now we're a little bit too far on that end in terms of the explosiveness, trying to just rely too much on the passing game. And to me, that all comes back to culture and identity. And I think, to be fair, I mean, there's some guys kind of, when people recruits or whatever, and they look at Alabama, they see a different team right now. It doesn't feel like the same physical dominant team that's going and making people quit, throughout the course of the game. It feels more like a little bit more like that, not necessarily finesse side of things, but almost so. I mean, when you're relying so much on the passing explosive ability through the air, when you're relying on defensively, you see a lot more, we're really trying to just force a lot of turnovers, a little bend but don't break kind of mentality. It's just there's a lot of philosophies that are different than what we've grown accustomed to. And so I agree 100%. With fans, they're starting to sense that. I think that's what fans are sensing. And I don't think they're wrong. I do think you need to have some room for, I guess, adjustment, some room for accepting the growth that's going to be there, because things are going to look different. I mean, it's a whole new staff, a whole new era of college football. However, there still is an expectation. in regards to having that physical identity. And I don't really care what system you bring in here. You still can play, even if you're a team that throws the football a lot, you can still have a physical identity. And it just feels like the last couple of years that's slowly been kind of slipping. So I think you're spot on, Lynn. I really do. Identity and culture right now is something that's kind of being looked at very extensively here at Alabama, given that we've just had that reputation that was just so much above the rest of the competition. And I think fans kind of hang on to that. And I don't think there's necessarily a problem with that, but also urge people to be a little realistic, given, you've seen it the past 2 years. I don't think it's necessarily the most, I don't know, it's probably not the smartest thing to say, all right, well, we went to transfer portal and got a couple guys. We're going to automatically go back to what our expectations were. I don't think that's probably the best idea because I think you're going to be disappointed, but we'll see. But thank you so much, Lim, for that super chat. Seriously, thank you guys, man. We got Coach Allen here. What's up, Coach? He says 35 times or more, we'll see similar results that come from a lack of sustained physicality against great competition. I'm telling you, man, the intangibles, stuff like that, like discipline, intensity, physicality. I mean, that separates even good football teams from great football teams. There's a lot of really skilled, good football teams, but when you watch the great football teams, they always have really good discipline. They execute at a high level, and 9 times out of 10, they're a very physical football team because that's the way the game's played. And that's why you saw the 2 teams playing last night. Same thing can be said about both those teams. I know the caller was saying Miami can't stretch the field, and to be fair, they don't have the best ability to do so, but their running game allows them to kind of overcompensate, you know what I mean, to kind of help hide some of those deficiencies, in my opinion, help set up some of the play action. That's why, you saw that they'll take shots. At least like in the Ole Miss game, if you go watch, they can. But the running game helps all that. We can make all the personnel moves we want on the O-line, but if you're not committed to running it consistently, yeah, that's you got to commit to it, man. You can't give up on it. And I get it's probably tough when you're looking at it and you're like, man, we're not executing this well, and you don't want to seem like you're just. Because I could also see a thing, you're running the ball 25, 30 times, and literally you're getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage, fans getting ticked off, and people are just like, what are you doing? But people got to understand the running game is not meant to you're not trying to hit an explosive run necessarily every time you run the ball. Obviously, that's the perfect goal would be, have a big run, 25, 30 plus yards anytime you tote the rock. But in all, seriousness, it's really just meant to really just impose your will on that other team. The best result is a big run and play, but really I would say like the byproduct of just running the football is, you're really hounding a defensive line. You're hounding the backers. They have to respect that, right? People can't just sit off. That's what people started doing with us. They knew we just sit there and run the ball. We just throw the ball all the time. We don't really run the football. Go watch how Georgia, Oklahoma, and these other teams started to play us. They just were taking away the deep parts of the field because they knew we were one-dimensional. Agree. I've been struggling seeing identity all season. Not sure what it will be next year. I'm not sure either, but I definitely recommend they get one. Like, especially offensively. Defensively was a little bit better. There's a little more consistency in terms of the entire year. Sorry, I'm having. Listen, when you learn a second language, I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes I'm like thinking of words and I'm thinking of them in Spanish. I'm like, wait, how do I say that in English again? Sorry. So my mind is kind of bouncing back and forth, but it really did feel like that offensively. We didn't have an identity this season. Very sporadic, kind of all over the place. There was never like flow to our offense. It felt like, at least on a consistent basis. Issue with Grubb is he called runs, but he can't scheme a running game. You have to scheme the running game. I'll paint to you a Mike Shanahan offense. They love that wide zone, but it works for them, right? But see, if you're going to run something like that, you got to have the right right personnel. But that's the thing. Like, people are saying, oh, we need the right people in this scheme. And I get, like, yeah, running pin and pull a bunch, but I just don't see how the guards that we got don't seem like great fits to be running a bunch of pin and pull or pulling schemes where they're, out in space. I don't see that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think if you actually go and watch the tape on these guys, you'll see where I'm coming from, where it doesn't feel like we had the most direction in terms of what we were doing in the transfer portal. It honestly, and I'm just telling you what I know, it really, I'm almost positive it was more so they were left scrambling a little bit, trying to replace guys that they probably thought would have been a little bit easier to replace than anticipated. That I'm telling you. I'm telling you. If you ultimately had a plan, listen, if you ultimately had a plan that you'd be replacing all those guys, you would have had those additions would have been signed and committed way early in the process. There wouldn't have been as many last minute commits and additions if that was all planned. I'm just telling you. That's a fact. You can ask any coach that's a fact. I'm not saying you don't get late additions. Everybody does, but the amount that we did, you don't load up on offensive line at the last minute if that was part of your plan to revamp the group. Your plan could have been to revamp the group, but if you had it like laid out in like a true plan, you would have been replacing those guys from the get-go. But the fact that it was all happening really at the end, on the back end of it, that says two things. One, the plan wasn't really a true solid plan, or two, they kept quote unquote whiffing or not getting some of the guys they might have anticipated being able to get. Just being completely honest with you. Tennessee just hired Indiana's strength coach too. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to get folks from their staff hired off. Yeah, CM, what you said, the running game has a cumulative effect over the course of the game. Get linebackers to commit down the hill. Yep, exactly. And that's why you got to be balanced. It's not about – people think like you have to have these big explosive runs. It's not even about that. But no, this is what the running game is designed to do, really, outside of the explosive runs like that. That's just – if you get that, great. We would love that. But in all reality, it's a cumulative effect, like Coach Al said. Right? You're chomping at the bit. You're not playing behind the sticks, right? It helps you set up third and short, which gives you a much better conversion rate on third down. That's a big one for the running game. So really, just to keep it simple, it helps set up third and short when you can keep, 3-4 yards a pop consistently, right? You're playing ahead of the chains, number one. Number two, you're making the defense stay true because like Coach Al was saying, you got backers. They have to respect that. They're reading their keys. They got to come down. Safeties have to come down. Right, because run support, right? If a team has the ability to run the ball, that's a threat. You can't sit there and just play off the whole time. You can't sit there and have safeties play in a two shell. Even though cover four definitely has things built in to help stop the run, like with their safety play. But you get what I'm saying. Typically, you start seeing more guys come down in the box. What does that do? That opens up passing windows, passing opportunities. So. And then also just imposing your will. Like, guys get tired, man. Like, defensive linemen. When you play a physical offensive line, I'm just telling you from experience, but when you're going against – I'm an edge guy, especially like me, and I like the pass rush. The best things you can do is just keep running the football at them. Man, we like being physical. We like being dogs, but you don't think that adds up when we're sitting there banging the whole time. We got pullers. We got to go close on pullers. Our shoulders start hurting. Like, hey, man. That takes a toll on the defense. Look what Miami did to Ole Miss. Go look at how gassed Ole Miss's defensive line was. Granted, they probably were out of shape, was what it was, but just go watch Ole Miss's defensive line play in Miami with their abilities to run the ball with those big-ass offensive linemen leaning on them all game. Oh, and then the other piece is game management, controlling the tempo of the football game. Another big one. Those are all like 3 or 4 of the main components of running the football. I would probably put explosive run plays probably towards the bottom of that list. Nobody really goes into a game expecting you're just going to just run all over the place and have 20-plus yard pops, every drive. That's not realistic. Everything I just listed are the true reasons that you must have a running game. Controlling the tempo, imposing your will, staying ahead of the chains, creating third and short, keeping the defense honest. I mean, that's why you run the football. And when you can't do that, you don't have those things. Sometimes you get a little bit of it. Like we were controlling the tempo of the game without running the football great, which was very unusual. That was kind of an anomaly for that stat, but normally it's different. Scheme, calendar, the board. Wait. Oh, sorry. It looks like a typo. The scheme Kalen DeBoer had. That's what it meant to say. Autocorrect got you. I got you. That worked at Washington isn't going to work in the Southeast because it's a lot more physical. Players are bigger. Talent gap is different. And see, that's why I'm still waiting to see, because I do feel how do I explain this? I do feel that they'd had a lot of success at Washington, but when you look at the defenses that they were playing that season, those defenses were built a lot different, kind of like what you're explaining. They weren't really known to play a whole bunch of defense, especially physical defense out there. So it's kind of a different beast. And one thing I'll say, I'm not saying this all the time, but you see that Washington team go up against a physical defense in Michigan, physical defense in Georgia, physical defense in the likes of LSU or Oklahoma. This system looks a lot different than how it was kind of looking out in the Pac-12. Didn't it work against Texas? Yeah, that's why I said I didn't say every time. I'm not saying it can't work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying every single time, but it's inconsistent against more physical defenses. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it can't. I'm not saying it can't. Hell, we had success against Georgia the first time. But for every good game, I can find a game where it seems like it gets stuffed, and then you end up in an issue where you don't really have much of an offense. That's all I'm saying, Seth. That's all I'm saying. Because think about it. I mean, they played Texas and they played Michigan. Who were the other defenses that they played that year? So if you want to go 1-1, so it seems like, it's just very hit or miss when it comes to playing defenses that play a certain style. But like I said, I'm not saying it can't work here. That's what I said earlier, Seth. It's not that it can't work. You can win football games being a pass-heavy, explosive offense. I'm not saying you can't. You definitely can. In my opinion, though, there's a lot less consistency. And for all the reasons we just talked about. You're over-reliant on a passing game, which if you're playing a team with really good pass rush or you don't have the offensive line to protect great, where do you go from there? If your running game's not consistent, you get what I'm saying? Then that's what happened to us on the back end of the season. What happened? Our passing game was out of sync, and we had no running game to keep guys honest or keep them balanced. And look what happened. The offense was pretty much non-effective. We had negative rushing yards against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Lexus, what's going on? Was that you on the phone lines that I think we missed? If that was, I'm so sorry. Happy New Year to two. Just listening and learning. Well, thank you so much. I'm so sorry we didn't. Jarvis had called in, and I was trying to let him finish his point, and then we were already running late. But please call us tomorrow if you're free or you have time. I'd love to circle back and get to your call. I'm so sorry. Okay, so you got another call too, so that worked out okay. But please call us any other time you're free. I'd love to get you on there. Pair that with young mistakes too. I said, yeah, it's just like I said. I'm not saying it can't work, but let's just go back and look at the last. So Indiana, you see how they play football. They run the football a whole hell of a lot. They average over 200 yards on the ground. Then they throw off of that. You know what I mean? RPO game. They kill it with those back shoulder throws. They take their shots when necessary. But again, it all is built around physicality, running the football and being balanced. Miami, physical, running the football there in that game. You go back the year before with who was it? Ohio State that won last year. I'm trying to think of I mean, they definitely ran the football. I mean, look at what they did against Oregon in, was it the first round of the playoffs? Then their running back run all over Oregon in their defense. They had the ability to run the football. The year prior, the champion was Michigan, who beat Kalen DeBoer in Washington. They ran the football really well. I mean, you're going to see a common thing. What I'm getting at is you can have success being these pass-heavy offenses, but it just seems like they're inconsistent and they're a little limited. They don't always fare as well as a team that's truly balanced and that has a physical identity. So that's all. Christian, love the show. We need more players giving their insight and information. Hey, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. That's why I try to get, a number of my former teammates on here, chopping it up and talking ball. But yeah, that's the goal, man. When I say teach football, I don't want to sound like condescending, like y'all don't know football, but just meaning like using my experiences and just the insight that I have from all the years of playing and learning from coaches like Coach Saban, Kirby Smart, and really, giving you guys a true insight and analysis on kind of what's going on based off of those things, But I really appreciate the compliment. Seriously, thank you so much. I always appreciate you guys' compliments like that. It really means a lot, seriously. Indiana was an anomaly in your view. Might not see again due to the level of efficiency and minimize risk. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's not common that you have a team like that goes from being the worst program to undefeated. But I just think that's a testament to Cignetti, his coaching, his culture, the ability to let those guys, go out there and play and execute at a high level, putting them in good positions, right? I mean, like, I'm telling you, if you go and watch really exactly what they're doing in terms of, all right, they see this defense is, consistently playing with this leverage here. We're going to work this part of the field. All right. They're stacking here. Like when we played them, we were playing a lot of off coverage. What they do, they have RPO system, right? RPO game. They're just dumping it out. Quick hitch, easy 5, 6, 7 yards, right? Boom. They take that. Go back. Now they're running the football. There's inside zone duo, offense line blocking it. They're picking up 4 or 5 yards. Now these backers have to respect that. These backers have to play downhill because why? You got to stop the run. Boom. They do it. They show it again, but it's RPO. Now you got a slant behind you. Just very efficient. And then when you have a quarterback that plays with the timing and accuracy like Mendoza, like those back shoulder throws, I don't care who's covered. If a quarterback has that type of ball placement, even the best cornerbacks are going to have a hard time stopping that. He's putting it where only his receiver. And then shout out to them for making nice catches. It's really impressive stuff. Yeah, that was one of my dogs in the background, man. He's always just chilling on my chair. Don't want to end up like Lincoln Riley. Yeah, and that, I don't think that's where we're going with it, but it sometimes definitely kind of feels like it. Indiana wide receivers made so many tough contested catches over the season. Wide receivers must be better. Yeah, no, listen, Ty caught a lot of criticism, but I'll be honest with you, Ty was a really good player this season, man. Latoya, what's up? Offsides, what's up, guys? Ty caught a lot of criticism, and to be fair, definitely some of it was, some of it was deserved. He didn't play his best ball, but at the same time, our receivers needed to help him out more. The guys up front needed to, be more consistent for him. And then you're talking about you got a quarterback with no running game, putting all the weight on his shoulders, man. So, but people that know football, they know it wasn't all Ty's fault. Some people are way too critical of him, and he shouldn't have got as much blame as he got, in my opinion. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Just like Milroe. I say all the time, Milroe got way too much of the blame. And I think people are starting to realize those other details that need to be cleaned up. What y'all laughing about in the chat? What I miss? think that the biggest thing I love about Mendoza, so take what the defense gives him. Yep. Does not have to throw 50-yard balls every time. No. And then that's a big, part on him for being a smart football player, knowing where to go, what to do within the system, taking what the defense gives him. And it's also the system itself. It just does a really nice job of being balanced. And it just seems like they have an answer in a response for anything and everything a defense will throw at them. Now, Miami's defense got home. They definitely got some pressure on them, but that was more so just because you got a really good group. But from a schematic standpoint, man, Indiana is very impressive. You can see Miami getting frustrated at times because the physicality was not enough to prevail over that system of players. Yeah, no, I mean, because that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, we can talk about the age of those guys, but man, to me, that takes away from how impressive that system and execution that they've built over there the last couple of years. No, I'm 100% with you, Duke. I think the age is kind of like the low-hanging fruit where people just go, oh, well, it's because they're – no, don't get me wrong. I mean, when you have like Mesidor, he's one of the most impressive edge guys I watched this season, without a doubt. He's a dog. But I do know that him being a 6-year guy, I believe he is, if I was 23 and I was going against probably, 19, 20-year-old freshmen or young guys, definitely probably would give me an advantage without a doubt. I mean, just physically, when the guys mature at different rates, a 23, 24-year-old athlete is going to be 9 times out of 10 more physically imposing than the 19-year-old. But I don't think that doesn't translate to going undefeated when also other teams can do the same thing. Huge Ty Simpson fan, process things really well, goes to pre-snap, making setting protections all too often. We went deep into the clock because Ty had the keys to make the checks. Yeah, and I'll say this. I mean, while he does all those things well, and I complimented him on that all season, I think the only thing that he needs to – not only thing, but one of the things he needs to continue improving, not getting happy feet when he senses that pressure. Sometimes he starts kind of seeing ghosts in terms of, he's escaping the pocket and there's not really a need to do it. But again, that comes with more reps and more experience. But if I just had to critique it, but I agree with you. I mean, in terms of his football IQ, reading things and getting adjustments in, pre-snap and operating the offense, he was, second to none in that stuff. But just sometimes throughout the course of the season, you started seeing some of that kind of that antsiness in the pocket kind of got him in trouble sometimes. I feel like he would sometimes overlook some of his guys, but you're right, it didn't help having all these long developing routes. Ty, he declared for the draft, Lex, so he'll be entering he is entering the NFL draft. So he's gone, and we'll have a quarterback battle between Keelan Russell and Austin Mack, which I think would be a really good one. I mean, once spring comes around, it's probably going to be the whole talking point for the whole spring. But I think it's going to be good. But yeah, Coach, I agree. Ty's a really good player, man. I'm rooting for him. I think he's going to be great in the NFL. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a little bit more athletic Mac Jones kind of deal. Ty wasn't done any favors by pieces around him. Case in point, the clip you showed yesterday, where it was Max protect and they rushed 3 and sat him. Yeah, and I talked about that. He had an uphill battle with a lot of stuff, but I always point out too, though. I mean, that's what Jalen Milroe dealt with for the 2 years prior to that. And we used to try to explain to everybody who used to just be up in arms about Milroe and just how awful he was. And I was just telling people, I'm like, man, like, of course he's got stuff he can improve on, but I mean, like, guys, he's dealing with so much around him that's not favorable. It's just for whatever reason now people after this season with Ty are finally open their eyes to, hey, we have a lot more issues than just the quarterback. Nobody wanted to hear that for the 2 years before Ty took the job, and now Ty took the job, and now people are like, oh wait, well Ty didn't have a running game or the offensive line. I'm like, Y'all not remember when we played Michigan? Jalen Milroe got sacked like 4 times in like the first quarter. And I'm like, but people act like that wasn't an issue. I'm like, dude, like we could have easily won a national championship with Jalen Milroe at quarterback. Should have. We should have beat Michigan that game. I mean, we should have beat Michigan, man. Even with as bad as the offensive line played, it really was. I mean, you had the special teams deal. I forgot what exactly happened, but I feel like that played a role. And then on defense, Caleb Downs had a bust still on that 4th down conversion that they got. Sent, what's his name? Blake Corum, whatever. Sent him to the flat, just ran a quick flat route, and I forgot what coverage they were running, but Caleb was supposed to be the flat player, and he didn't pick it up. They end up converting right there. I mean, if you literally get a stop right there, it's game over. And I feel like if we matched up with Washington in that national championship game, I think we would have won. I know it's all woulda, coulda, shoulda, but common denominator, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and see, now we're like piecing everything together. And so now when if people are questioning why, again, just because I have an objective view that I'm a little concerned with where we currently stand with our offensive line, that's exactly why. Because everybody talks about our offense hadn't really looked the par over the last few seasons, even before the board got here. And just like you said, Jeff, what's the common denominator? The offensive line not being consistent, struggling, not having a consistent run game. And to me, I just was hoping, like, in my mind, I was thinking once that portal opened, I was like, man, we're probably going to go out here knowing the fact that we also lost all these guys. I was like, man, we're going to probably go out here and go get some dudes to go put up front. Why wouldn't you? I mean, you got Keelan Russell and Austin Mack competing at quarterback. You're good there. Don't need to waste any money there. I mean, you could use an explosive back, somebody that can give you a different gear. But you got some good potential. I'm like, bro, I thought when the portal opened up, I thought we would have been like trying to get some dudes up front. Because in my opinion, I'm like, if we could find a way to bolster our offensive line and have like some dogs, some physical players that can execute, help get our running game back established, can protect consistently, I feel like the outlook on this football team will look a lot different. But the problem is they didn't really do that. I mean, they just supplemented, the lack of depth we had with more, unproven development guys, which I'm not saying can't work, but that's probably not the move that probably gives people the most confidence, because you're now relying on the offensive line coach and the system that people are just, everybody's complaining about to get these new players to play at that level. I'm just saying, I just don't see how anybody that's objective or honest with themselves can sit there and say they feel extremely confident in that situation. I personally don't see that. So if anybody wonders why, because I have an objective opinion, it's not me hating or being negative. It's just me being objective based off of tape and everything I know about the game of football. I'm not as confident as I was hoping I would be coming out of the portal. I thought the first visits would come from tackles and guards. Well, that's what I thought like we would have went in on. I thought we would have gone in on offensive linemen and linebacker / some D linemen to play up front. That's what I thought would have been like but do you think the board didn't want to play his guys behind that O-line? That's a good question, Latoya. I don't think so. I don't think it was that. I just know, like, a lot of times, especially when it comes to like who's playing, it's from the outside looking in, it's easy for us to like, well, I wonder if they're not, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but you get what I'm saying, like, because we're not seeing it every day. Like even somebody like me who I go to practice and whatnot. I mean, I'm around. I still don't even see it on the consistent level that they do. Like they're seeing these guys every single day. Not only that, like, so they're practicing with these players. Then they go inside and they watch the tape on these players. I mean, they know these players better than anybody. So I don't think it was that. I think it was a matter of when you look at the quarterback position, you got a guy in Ty Simpson who is older. He especially earlier on in the year. I mean, the dude was playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the country, you know? So it's hard to kind of just go away from that. So I don't think it had anything to do with the line, so to speak. I would say probably more so. I mean, you got a senior, well, fourth-year veteran guy who's played good ball. He's just banged up. Other deficiencies with the offense are starting to really show, and I just don't even think a change at quarterback would have necessarily solved a lot of those issues. But who knows? I guess hindsight's 2020. Well, you probably one of the few, man. I mean, a lot of people were fired up when we hired the board. And listen, everybody rightfully so. I mean, he's a great football coach. I just, just his system and kind of how they do things is just a little bit different than what a lot of us are used to. So, I mean, it just takes some adjusting, and hopefully they figure it out. I mean, because I'm rooting for him. It's like I said. I mean, like, I hate that there's like this dynamic, whether it's from like Damian being real critical or whatever. But I hate that there's a dynamic right now that feels like, if you're objective, people think it's like, oh, he's negative, he's this and that. I'm like, I don't think people understand, at least from my perspective. I'll speak for myself. Like, bro, as much as like all these former players that we put into the program to be a certain way, we want nothing more for it to continue like that. And if anything, you'd be surprised, even for a guy like Damian. I know you guys probably aren't gonna believe me when I say this, but like, you'd be shocked. Like, it bothers us more than probably any fans or probably than you could imagine when we're not doing well, because of all the sacrifices that all of us have made. Like, we want to see it do well, and I almost wonder if sometimes, I think that's probably sometimes where something that comes from a Damian. I don't think he's jealous or anything like that. I think it's more so, man, like, and you hear it when he talks about it. That's why he always goes back to when we because he has an expectation based off of everything that we have put in. I think just sometimes some of that emotion just kind of bleeds through, and when he gets frustrated, he kind of just is really honest about it, a little bit too honest, but criticisms considered. Hey, yeah, it kind of is. I mean, and it shouldn't be like that, but that's why, like, our listeners and like our group, like, I mean, we can sit here and we can compare guys, we can criticize in a healthy way, and I think it's pretty well received because people know. I mean, we have good intentions. No one's doing anything to be disrespectful to anybody. That's why we always. I mean, like my dad loves Coach DeBoer. I mean, but I mean, if he's going to break down or be asked questions about what he thinks, I mean, if he doesn't see necessarily a great product, he's just going to be honest about it. But it's not on the personal level. It's just on the football side of things. You hear what Saban said about that? About what? What Saban said about what? Some people are going to be pissed if Keelan doesn't win the job. Yeah, because I mean, what happens is people kind of pick their favorite, you know what I mean, and they want to go with that. I said it the other day, and I'll say it again. I think, listen, this is how it works. Keelan has the higher ceiling. He's got more potential, in my opinion, than Austin Mack. But with Austin Mack being older and more experienced in this system, with him being the backup this past season, I mean, to me, I view it as Keelan's just going to have to be that much better than Austin Mack for them to give him that jump over Austin. Well, the thing is, Keelan can't leave now because the portal's closed. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter. I mean, if he gets beaten out, he has no choice. But, I mean, now he could say he's not going to play and he's going to redshirt to save a year. But best player should play. Yeah, 100%. But when you talk about quarterbacks, man, experience is definitely very, very beneficial. And although Austin doesn't have like a lot more game experience, I mean, I think his time in the system could give him a little bit of a boost. Because if I'm being honest with you, just watching both those guys, behind the scenes this past year is is as talented as Keelan Russell is. I mean, he was not ready to play. So that's why I used to see people like saying, "Oh, they need to play Keelan." I'm like, man, like Keelan's great, but Keelan also he's going to throw a few picks, during practice, right? Because he's still learning and developing. Going from throwing against high school secondary guys to now you're playing against one of the best secondaries in the country. There's a lot of growing pains. So I think it's going to be a matter of how quick he can, develop between now and the season. If he's still kind of, on that path, probably going to start with Austin Mack, but could always change. Damian said this year's team wasn't a championship team. He was correct. I mean, I was about to say, Damian, here's the thing. He went kind of hard, but I almost feel that, you're talking about, yeah, we talked about that earlier. But to be fair, I mean, Damian was right on some of the stuff he said. And he wasn't necessarily, he was wrong on some stuff too, like everybody is. He's not going to be perfect, but I think here's the thing. I think if his delivery would have been a little bit different, it would have been a little bit different, right? Meaning like when he was like, "My name's Damian Harris, and then we're not Alabama's not a playoff team." Part of the job when you're especially on that level, I mean, it's about entertainment, but also insight. But they like entertainment, so I mean, I think he kind of was taking the entertainment route, and it kind of came at the expense of being seemed a little disrespectful, but. When you're in that space, I just tell you guys, like especially on the national level, I mean, you got to kind of take the brand away from it and kind of just break teams down, and that's what he does, and that's what you're supposed to do. But you always can still try to be respectful with your delivery with things, and to each his own. Like I personally don't take that approach because I don't ever want people thinking I'm disrespecting any players or anybody. But I also definitely an objective because that's where your credibility comes from. If I sat here and just said Alabama's going to go undefeated every year and is going to win a national championship, and I knew that wasn't the case, and then I just end up being wrong time after time, that's a hit to my credibility. I want to keep my credit. I want to maintain my credibility, and but also, be respectful and supportive. So there's a way to kind of, be objective but be respectful with it. But to answer your question in terms of Coach Saban wasn't disrespecting Damian. I promise to God he wasn't, because he's used that example before Damian Harris even said anything. The example literally is just that. I think the people, especially Alabama fans that don't like Damian, were really like leaning into it from the perspective that, oh, he's got to be talking about Damian. Yeah, hell yeah, coach. But that's not what that was. Literally, the example really was really the shot wasn't at Damian. The shot was at the people that do the recruiting rankings, that respectfully, he's just saying, I mean, like, why are we paying attention to like their rankings on players when they're not even coaches? Or like, who's to say like they have the credibility type deal, not saying you have to be a coach or player to know what you're talking about. There's a lot of people that do a good job. Shout out to, Clint, like, I don't know if Clint played or not. I don't think he did, but he works his tail off breaking stuff down. He does a damn good job. So I'm not saying not everybody, but to Coach Saban's point, like the people that make these rankings, I don't know what their credentials are. Him saying Debo's job is online was the biggest issue. I was about to say, like, to be fair, I even listened to I went back and listened to a lot of his takes when people were really mad. Personally, I don't think anything he said was really that bad. I know it might have been distasteful when it sounded a little like, oh, he's kind of dancing on, oh, Alabama's not a playoff team, whatever. But that kind of came from him being emotional, like, damn, like, I'm just telling you, from a former player perspective, I was embarrassed watching us get beat down like that against Georgia. I didn't come on here and act like that or say that, but I, in my head, was like, man, what the hell was that? That shit was terrible. Personally, it was embarrassing. But the thing about Coach DeBoer, I agree that was a little like, that's a little far. And you probably shouldn't necessarily say that in the media, only knowing that, or even like the playoff thing. Like, I think you just got to be, when you're on that platform, you got to be careful because, I mean, you got voters and people that will take your word, and you don't want it to seem like it's like going against your school in a sense where it could be hurting your school. But I'm gonna be straight up with you though. I mean, like, I don't think he had bad intentions saying that. I think what he was just saying was the standard at Alabama. I mean, we just know how it is. I do think he was wrong in that aspect. I don't think Coach DeBoer's job was on the line. But I do agree with him that there would be more pressure, and that's the case. I mean, the fact that we got beat the way we got beat against Indiana, I mean, he's 100% right. There is more pressure now. Not saying anybody's job is on the line, but I'm telling you from what I know. I mean, from people behind the scenes. I mean, there's more tension on the program right now than there was before we played Indiana because of the way we lost and the SEC championship game. And I'm not saying you better do that. I'm just saying the outlook on things has shifted a tad, even if it's just a little bit. I mean, there's truth to that, you know, because that you got to be careful having too many of those performances that can hurt the brand, man. And once the brand is taking a hit, that you talk all the recruiting and all the other things that that stuff starts taking a hit. That can be a problem, you know. But anyway, but I promise you, Coach Saban wasn't taking the shot. Coach Saban's used that example a lot. It's literally just stars do not guarantee any success. They just don't. There is obviously, percentage-wise, there's more 5 stars that are drafted than 3 stars, but there's no guarantees with anything. That was the whole thing. Let me see. Hard question. Do you think guys are already headed to the portal after the Georgia game, including current starters? I don't know if guys are already headed there, but I do know that there's probably some, mounting tension kind of, not with everybody, but probably with some guys. Not even just stars. I just think, listen, we had a lot of guys leave in the transfer portal. Not like a lot compared to everybody, but I'm saying like a lot of, what I call a lot is like when you have like starters leaving, to me, like that's more telling than anything, right? Depth guys are going to leave all the time. That's expected. But when you have like everybody at the bandit position leave, like to me, I think that's pretty obvious, right? There's probably some writing on the wall there. When you have, Quay and James Smith both leave, guys who are, going to be playing, heavy contributors, Bama guys. I mean, people might not want to admit it, but there's clearly writing on the wall that is, there's something that guys are whatever. There's some type of tension or something. No idea of negatively affecting the brand. That ship has sailed. Wait. Maybe an effective GM. Oh, dang. Dang, Trevor's airing it out over on the Facebook side of things. What happened to your locker room if you spent all that money bringing in 1 or 2 players? You might have the same problem as Ole Miss. That's a serious thing, but I don't know if you guys know this, but there's actually rules against sharing NIL details, like here at least. Like you will get in trouble if you share your NIL contract details here. You will get in trouble because they know what will happen. And I'll be honest with you, that's one of the hardest parts about the transfer portal. Because think about this, like you got all these guys on this team that just played last year that contributed. This is why retaining a team is really hard. I'll be honest with you. Sounds easier than it really is. You all these guys that just played last year that contributed, and then you're going out and paying all these new guys. Well, the market resets. Anytime you get a new player, you're going to have to pay. So imagine what these guys that are sitting in this locker room that you just put in all this work for are thinking, and they're watching you go pay a guy from Southern Cal, or you go pay this guy to come play D-line, and you're sitting here making what you're making, and then you're like, they're going to get this guy, and you're like, hold on, like, so you don't value me? It's a lot, man. It's a lot. But that happens everywhere. Ole Miss is just unfortunate because it sounded like it wasn't like players finding out. But these players know, though. They share agents. The agents know numbers. And it's going to spread. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. This whole thing is a mess. And it needs to be cleaned up. Can you elaborate on the writing on the wall piece? Are you saying those guys like Quay and James didn't believe in coaching or more? It's not money related. Not money related. It's not money related. Those guys could have been made more money if they wanted to. I mean, I'll let you. I mean, you're barking at the right tree. I mean, just put 2 and 2 together. I mean, think about it. If you have a number of guys that are scheduled to play a lot of snaps, whether starting or just heavily involved, and it's more than likely not a money thing. I'm telling you guys, a lot of those guys was not money. Not saying everybody. I'm just saying you got to, just put 2 and 2 together. You're on the right track. I mean, you got to think, man. A lot of those guys were here with, brought in by Coach Saban. They spent the last couple of years, with his new staff. I mean, they've kind of been able to see a little bit of both. They've had 2 years now. I mean, if you're seeing a number of guys just leave that are penciling to be starters, just trust me, that's not a common. People don't just do that, And there you go. Now there you go, Christian. You're starting to kind of put stuff together. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's just, what you deal with. I mean, there's a number of reasons why guys leave. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to grab me some lunch. If you guys haven't, man, just hit that like button on the way out. I always appreciate that. We got Clint Lamb tomorrow, so we'll discuss with Clint, the transfer portal, get his thoughts on everything. I know I kind of did all that on my end yesterday, but I'd love to get Clint's thoughts. He does a nice job breaking all that stuff down, so we'll get with him tomorrow. And then Thursday, we're going to get Mike Johnson on here, former Alabama offensive lineman, and we're going to talk O-line, right? We're going to talk O-line. So I'm looking forward to that. So, news who played it. Played under Saban, now in a new regime. Making moves just because it's a culture thing. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, and I'm not saying every single guy, but I just know, I mean, there's definitely been some frustration with some of that stuff, just being honest. What was the question? Maybe I can answer real quick before I leave. Wait, good question, King. Wait, who asked the question? Maybe I missed it. All right, well, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out. We'll be back tomorrow, same time. You guys know the drill. We'll see you guys then.